Chapter 751. Repel the Enemy. Chapter 751. Repel the Enemy. The Upanishad inheritance shot out of Shi Yan's sea of consciousness, slowly floating towards Ka Tuo. Ka Tuo's eyes were so hot, yet he was a little bit hesitant as well. Eventually, he released his soul altar. His soul altar covered the Upanishad. Shi Yan's negative energy covering the inheritance vanished immediately right when the Upanishad merged into the power Upanishad tier of Ka Tuo's soul altar, becoming part of his soul altar. Chaotic energy fluctuations twirled around Ka Tuo. His body shook vehemently while he was sensing the Upanishad, adding it into his soul altar and making it his unique seal of Upanishad. Shi Yan let out light laughter. The way he looked at Ka Tuo didn't have any evil intention. When adding the power Upanishad, the warrior would need to release his soul altar and condense his soul, spirit, and thought into one. He shouldn't let any external force disturb him during the whole process. At this moment, if Shi Yan struck a fatal strike, even if bloody slaughterer Ka Tuo had reached the third sky of King God realm, he would receive severe wounds. As long as he wanted to attack Ka Tuo, even if bloody slaughterer Ka Tuo could survive, he would be hurt badly. Perhaps he would never have the chance to enter the original God realm for the rest of his life. But Shi Yan didn't want to attack Ka Tuo. To him, the blood vein ring still concealed a big secret that he had just entered the threshold of. It would take a long time to open it fully. Ka Tuo received the inheritance of the Chaos Upanishad by Gu Lu, one of Bloodthirsty's cortege of 8. As Gu Lu was one member of the Bloodthirsty's cortege of 8, he must be a powerful expert. Shi Yan was scared thinking how this almost invincible existence died. Since Gu Lu was related to that man, perhaps he would become a sharp weapon in Shi Yan's hand. Of course, he would never destroy his weapon. Shortly, Ka Tuo seemed to finish adding the Upanishad into his soul altar. His soul altar swayed slightly, then returned to his sea of consciousness, the energy fountain of his soul. At this moment, Ka Tuo opened his eyes, taking a deep breath. An extreme joy bloomed in his heart as he looked at Shi Yan with great astonishment. "You just gave me the inheritance like that? No conditions?" Shi Yan grinned. "My brother, we're from the same school, so I won't harm you. This inheritance belongs to you. If you get it, you should continue to cultivate. I can relax now. If you please, just tell me who asked you to attack me. And don't chase us furthermore. Is it okay?" Ka Tuo didn't answer immediately. He pondered for a while and then suddenly asked, "Senior, why do you only have the true God realm cultivation base?" "I'm too young. Although I was enrolled earlier, my cultivation time hasn't been long enough." Shi Yan continued to fabricate his story. "As you call me your senior, we're considered classmates. When you've entered the original God realm, I will tell you things related to us. How about you and I join hand to capture Ziyao? I have always dreamt of having her. Anyway, if brother wants her, as your junior, I can give up what I want." A cunning gleam sparkled in Ka Tuo's eyes. "If we capture Ziyao, I can receive big benefits. Don't you think it's better to go with me than with that little girl? Although we don't have a good reputation for being space pirates, we don't have any restrictions. We can do whatever we want. How free is that? What do you think?" "Pirates?" Shi Yan was surprised. Then, he shook his head smilingly. "Always hiding to west or east, it's not what I want. I don't care if you want to be a space pirate, but I won't do that. I have my goals. I have stuff I have to get done. Your crew has enough members, so I won't be one of you." Ka Tuo frowned while contemplating. "You should hurry to adjust your Upanishad, getting it back on the right track. So, I suggest you be content with your lot, quiet down, and find a place where people can't find you to solve your problem first." Shi Yan smiled. "If you don't want to talk more, I won't force you. We will talk later. Once you strengthen your realm and feel you want to break through to the original God realm, remember to find me. We will talk at that time." Then, Shi Yan seemed not to want to talk more. He turned around and left. Bloody slaughterer Ka Tuo looked at him with astonishment. Seeing him about to leave, with Shi Yan having flown out already, he shouted in a low tone, "Wait a minute." Shi Yin turned his back, looking at him smilingly. The ones who hired me included Miss by Row of the Underworld League and Sura of the Dark Firmament Divine Nation. Ka Tua snorted. It's to repay your favor, senior. My business is done here. I will leave right away. Brother, be careful. Sura's attack won't end here. Even if we leave, he will continue. Sura? Shi Yin was surprised. Who's he? Haha, Princess Xiao surely knows him. Tell her, and she will know who wants to kill her. Ka Tua pondered for a while and then continued, that princess isn't a good person. Brother, be careful. Don't give her a chance to kill you. Many strong experts in the Raging Flame Star area follow her because of her beauty. However, most of them don't have a nice ending. You should take care of yourself. Shi Yin nodded and smiled. Thank you for your reminder. By the way, what should I do if I want to contact you? Ka Tua hesitated for a while, and then took out a blue sky crystal from his ring. That crystal was carved with a magical formation and a beam of moving chaos energy. I made it myself. When you want to find me, give it to a guy named Ka Fu in the land of God punishment. He's my brother. Ka Tua threw him the stone. But you'd better not let the others see it. Don't bring trouble to me. The land of God punishment? Where is it? Shi Yin was surprised. Ask Princess Ziyao. She must know about it. Ka Tua didn't talk more. He turned around and left, as if he was hastening to reconcile his new Upanishad. Shortly, Ka Tua disappeared. Shi Yin scattered the burning meteorites. Not long afterward, he saw the tiger-shark war chariots disappear one by one. Ka Tua was a man who repaid favor. He left a tiger-shark war chariot there for Shi Yin. Shi Yin pondered for a while, flying out of the circle made of flaming meteorites towards the tiger-shark chariot. He found that the spiritual station inside the chariot and all barriers and restrictions had been deactivated. Shi Yin poured a flow of soul consciousness into the chariot, which moved immediately, gliding through the meteorites towards Ziyao. A massive meteorite shielded a place in the gathering spot of sunbeams. It was where Ziyao was waiting for him silently. She looked like a fire fairy with rainbow light twirling around her. She was worriedly folding and then unfolding her fingers. Flows of seven-colored divine light shot out of her fingertips. Just like small snakes, they wound around her hand. Staying with Shi Yin through this period had calmed down her seething mind. She had temporarily forgotten the wicked competition of the royal family. She felt relaxed, as if she had thrown all the burdens away. This experience would be something she would never forget for the rest of her life. She treasured it, and Shi Yin was a flame in this memory of hers, which she had imprinted in her mind, and nothing could erase it. Waiting with worries for a long moment, Ziyao became impatient. Seeing the meteorites not exploding, she couldn't help herself but fly out of the sunbeams congregating area, turning around to look for Shi Yin. A moment later, she found a tiger-shark war chariot. Ziyao discolored, gathering energy to prepare for her attacks. Are you going back there for me? A generous laughter arose from the war chariot from a sunbeam gathering area far from her. Seems like your highness misses me a lot. Yeah, I'm honored. I suddenly feel excited. Perhaps that's why I could burst out my divine power and defeat Ka Tuo's gang. Shi Yin shouted. The tiger-shark war chariot glided faster through the thick-woven sunbeams and approached Ziyao shortly. Ziyao's enchanting face looked like a blooming flower. She smiled tenderly, waiting inside the bunch of sunbeams. Seven-colored god light twirled around her soft body as her beautiful eyes glistened. It's true. I was really worried about you, but it seems I overthought. Tell me, why didn't Ka Tuo's gang chase after you? The sea in her heart seethed. It wasn't as calm as she was showing on her face. Releasing the soul consciousness, she didn't find anyone, which made her seriously curious. Bloody Slaughterer Ka Tuo's name was famous in the Raging Flame Star area. He was the most ruthless slaughterer, and his hands always had blood stains. It was not easy to make this man give up his targets. As long as he hadn't died, he would never give way to his targets. Ziyao was astounded knowing that the slaughterer didn't come after them. She didn't know what had happened back there. Ka Tuo won't show up anymore. He has retreated from the solar star exploding fragment field. He gave us this tiger shark war chariot. Shi Yin smiled, waving at Ziyao to ask her to get in the war chariot. Ziyao hesitated for a while, as if she were afraid of something. Then, she slowly got into the chariot. Have you cooperated with Ka Tua to deal with me? Would you sell me then? Ka Tua had proposed the same. Indeed. Shi Yin looked at her deeply. Suddenly, he smiled. Ziyao discolored. I denied him. Haha. Pardon me, but I can't tell you the details, and I hope you won't ask about it. While frowning, Shi Yin said seriously, Ka Tua and I share the same origin. I hope that you won't pursue him after we get out of here. At this moment, I can't disclose much. I hope you believe me. I don't mean harm to you. Princess Ziyao's eyes sparkled as she scrutinized him without blinking. Long afterward, she nodded gently. All right, I won't press you. Quite the contrary, I feel better that you don't tell me the details. If you had told me a broken lie, I would have thought that you did cooperate with Ka Tua to harm me. Bai Rou of the Underworld League has promised big profits to Ka Tua, smiled Shi Yin. That be asterisk T. Ziyao gritted her teeth. And there's another one. Shi Yin paused for a while, his face odd. He's from your dark firmament divine nation. Ka Tua said that he's called Sura. Do you know him? Ziyao's face changed dramatically as her soft body shivered. Cold light shot out from her eyes. This man, indeed. Who? Prince Du Jie, my brother from another mother. Sura's the captain of his bodyguards. Chapter 752, Dirck. Chapter 752, Dirck. Dark competition in the royal family was the dirtiest and most ruthless in the world. For the throne, brothers could kill brothers, or even the father. It was not a rare thing to expect. Du Jie and Ziyao had the same father but different mothers. To get the crown of the dark firmament divine nation, Du Jie wanted to kill Ziyao and her blood brother, which wasn't hard to understand. After Princess Ziyao named Prince Du Jie, her mood was down. Along the way back, she was silent, and her smile wasn't as bright as before. Shi Yin understood her mood. He knew it was hard to give any advice in this field. So, he didn't try to say anything in vain. Ziyao told him what the land of God punishment was. It was the area at the edge of the raging flame star area, which was obnubulated by thick mist year-round. This land had so many forbidden areas that even an original God realm expert couldn't use his soul consciousness to survey. Many space pirates would seclude in those lands to avoid the enemies. The land of God punishment was situated in the center of the forbidden areas. A crowd of pirates, marauders, and evildoers that the other forces didn't want to accept dwelled there, along with brutal slaughterers and the madmen of the raging flame star area. No one would show mercy while talking about that area. Also, it was a strange but rich trading area. Many goods the pirates and marauders got would be put up for transactions there. Rare cultivating materials that couldn't be found in the raging flame star area would perhaps appear in that land. The land of God punishment was full of fights. They fought daily. Weak warriors couldn't survive there. People were killed every day, and all of their belongings would be snatched away. When bloody slaughterer Ka Tua, the leader of the pirates, operated in another area of the raging flame star area, if the enemies laid their eyes on him, he would be chased until they could kill him. But it would be different in the land of God punishment. This place had so many forbidden areas. If he evaluated that he couldn't resist the enemies, he just needed to hide in a forbidden area and see some time to recover. Madmen, slaughterers, pirates, and murderers with many death sentences often visited the land of God punishment. They would trade many goods and materials, creating a strange but rich land. This area hadn't been governed. Forces in the raging flame star area used to attack this place in an attempt to clean it. However, they hadn't succeeded. After what Princess Ziyao told him, Shi Yin quieted down as he finally knew the location of the land of God punishment. If it were not necessary, he wouldn't need to visit that land. Even if he wanted to go, it shouldn't be with his current realm. When he felt he could protect himself well enough, he would go there and find Ka Tua, asking him to do something in his favor. Ziyao seemed to have another goal. The tiger-shark war chariot slowed down as she knew bloody slaughterer Ka-Tu wouldn't come for them anymore. She identified the direction, then drove the war chariot in the solar star exploding fragment field, not caring about the speed. On their journey, they encountered some other marauders and some warriors secluding in the solar star exploding fragment field. However, those people weren't as brutal and fearless as bloody slaughterer Ka-Tu. When they found that Ziyao was at the third sky of King God realm, they would proactively stay away, not daring to mess with her. Shi Yin relaxed happily. He stayed and cultivated in the tiger-shark war chariot to steady his realm. He didn't hurry, just letting Ziyao be in charge of everything. Time flew by quickly. Today, when he was closing his eyes to relax his nerves, Ziyao suddenly smiled and muttered, "We're almost there. Where do you want to go?" Shi Yin lifted his head to look at her in confusion. "You should have a purpose visiting the solar star exploding fragment field. What do you want after all?" "I want to visit a man. He's very important to me. If I can get his recognition, I can gain the upper hand in the royal competition to the throne." Ziyao's bold brows knitted together. "Don't be hurried. We will see him soon." Ziyao drove the tiger-shark war chariot to glide through the maze of meteorites, sometimes using her soul consciousness to survey. Gradually, they arrived at a place packed with burning meteorites. Flaming rocks floated everywhere while sunbeams shot chaotically. Ziyao got excited as she wormed through the gaps between the dangerous burning meteorites like a shuttle. She detoured to avoid many dangerous areas, and after a long moment called out, "It's here." Shi Yan's eyes brightened, his face also cheering up as his vision got clear. It was unimaginable that a piece of land with rich heaven and earth energy could be situated in the middle of the burning meteorite sea. It was a square land, thousands of miles squared in area. It floated quietly in outer space. Countless sunbeams seemed to be absorbed by that piece of land. Steam fumed, winding outside the land, creating a marvelous barrier and covering the entire area. This barrier filtered the sunbeams, controlling the extreme heat so it wouldn't destroy the flora inside. Square-shaped herbal fields were flat and neat like cubes of tofu. Each field was the home of rare and precious spiritual herbs. They were all shining vigorously, proving their magical medicinal effects. At first glance, those herbal fields seemed to be shimmering. So many plants in different colors looked more like blooming flowers, forming a scene that was beautifully marvelous. A clear lake stayed in the center of hundreds of herbal fields, where an islet with a small cottage was situated. Ziyao's line of sight glided through the thick steam, falling on that small cottage. She left the tiger-shark war chariot, going into the barrier made of thick vapor, then called tenderly, "Uncle Dirck, your niece comes to visit you. Please open the barrier so I can get in." A soul fluctuation was sent from the small cottage on the islet. A moment later, a white-headed man emerged from the cottage. He waved his hand to dismiss the barrier, letting out a tender laughter. "Come in." Ziyao nodded to Shi Yin, signaling him to come with her. Shi Yin smiled and didn't hesitate, accompanying Ziyao through the barrier to that land of rich heaven and earth spiritual qi. They slowly descended at the center of the islet. The white-headed man called Dirck had some wrinkles at the corners of his eyes, but he was surely a handsome man when he was young. He crossed his arms in front of his chest, standing in the yard of his cottage while facing the sky. Until Ziyao and Shi Yin landed, his deep eyes had never left Ziyao, as if he were sinking into his thoughts. Shi Yin didn't say anything as he was observing the surroundings discreetly, especially Dirck. This herbal area was surrounded by so many flaming meteorites. It was just around 1,000 square miles, but the heaven and earth spiritual qi and the 5 elements energy in this land were dozens of times denser than the 6th herbal star. Herbs and spiritual grass planted in those fields seemed to be all high quality, which Nita's couldn't compare with at all. It seemed people in this islet had utilized the solar energy of the solar star exploding fragment field to convert the cycle of heaven and earth energy to create the magic of this area. Dirck had the same immense energy fluctuation that Shi Yin had observed from Delay. Their auras were vast and immeasurable. However, when he tried to sense further, he couldn't feel a beam of energy on him. It was like he was just an ordinary person. He was obviously an alchemist whose rank was higher than Nita. Looking at Ziyao, Dirck fell into his memories. Different complicated moods sparkled in his eyes. After a long moment, he sighed with emotion. So identical. You and your mother. You guys look the same as if you were one. Ziyao's soft body shivered. Uncle Dirck, you've met my mother? How is she? Ziyao's mother passed away before she could be able to memorize things. She had no memories of her mother. Every time she tried to ask her father, she didn't get the information she wanted to know. With time, the feeling she had for her mother seemed to fade gradually. That ** Du Tianji had promised me to take care of your mother. He didn't fulfill his promise. He let your mother die. Dirck snorted, his face cold and dark. If I had known it, I would have never let her go. If she had gone with me, she would have never fallen into this tragic consequence. She would absolutely not have had to die. How did she die? My father has never told me anything. Uncle, could you please tell me? Ziyao begged the man. You should ask him yourself, dear. Dirck let out a long sigh, looking at Ziyao with fondness. That ** knows you look exactly like her. That's why he sent you to see me. It's been so many years, and he hasn't changed a bit. Cunning. He calculates everything precisely. He knows I won't refuse you, so he sent you to me. Uncle, Ziyao called him tenderly. Is my mother's death related to him? Of course, yes. Dirck rolled his eyes. If he didn't want that throne and expand the territory, how could my sister die exhausting herself? My sister was the most outstanding alchemist of that year. Even I didn't have her innate endowment. She had refined so many god pellets for that ** Du Tianji. She had damaged her soul badly to help Du Tianjia strengthen his force. Her soul was eroded bit by bit. Eventually, her soul altar vanished, leading to her death. If Du Tianji hadn't been so selfish that he wanted to rule the entire Raging Flame star area, my beloved sister wouldn't have had to die. Ziyao's heart trembled, her beautiful eyes watery. A sorrowful feeling soaked her wholly. You look like my sister, but your brother takes after that **. It's impossible if you want me to leave my place and aid your brother. I will never help someone who looks like Du Tianji. But if you want to do something, I promise you, even if I have to risk my old life, I will help you at all costs. Dirck took a deep breath. The entire Raging Flame star area knows what your brother is like. He inherits Du Tianji's characteristic from when he was young. I will never risk my life for him. Ziyao was indifferent. Du Jie, your brother from another mother, came here before you. He came and promised me that as long as I stayed in this area, he would transport a large number of medicinal materials to me every 10 years. Dirck darkened his face. The royal evil competition is so dirty that nothing could compare with it. Brothers kill sisters without any hesitation. Anyway, thinking about it, Du Tianji had also killed a lot of his siblings to claim the throne. In present days, his children are going on the same path as his young self. I wonder if he has ever thought about it. It's him. Ziyao clenched her teeth. I almost died before I could see you, uncle. The one who ambushed me was my dear older brother Du Jia. Why do you need to yearn for power and position? Give it up and leave with me, then we will live in peace and freedom. Dirck gave her a deep look. As long as you want it, Uncle can protect you forever. You will never need to worry about anything. Uncle can help you collect cultivating materials. Why do you need to get out there and battle with the others? Even if I don't fight for my right, the others won't let me go. Ziyao pondered for a while and then beamed a forced smile. Father has put forth everything to reach the ethereal god realm. You know how dangerous it is. If he succeeds, nothing will change. But if he fails, his soul altar will perish. At that time, the divine nation will fall into chaos. Then, no matter where I hide, I can't stay away from their pursuit. Even if Uncle wants to protect me, it'll be a hard task. Dirck panicked. That damn ***. How could that heartless moron gain such realm? The heaven is so unfair. Chapter 753, Resolutely Reject. Chapter 753, Resolutely Reject. In the center of the meteorite sea, Princess Ziyao had begged Dirck to leave his place and help her compete for the throne for Dufeng, her blood brother, to ensure that he would become the future king of the dark firmament divine nation. Dirck remembered how things happened in the past, scolding Du Tianji for being heartless. However, he didn't want to help Ziyao support Dufeng to get the throne. Shi Yin stayed aside, not having said anything from the beginning to the end. He listened to their conversation and gained some information about King Du Tianji of the Dark Firmament Divine Nation. He understood that this man was the tyrant overlord of an area in the raging flame star area. For the great undertaking, he could give up everything. For a stronger realm, he could sacrifice anything. Perhaps, in Du Tianji's mind, the one who could inherit his throne should be a bloody iron overlord like him. As his children were competing harshly, it might be that he was watching them. He wanted to see his children killing each other. The strong would live and the weak would die. Then he would pick the winner to be his heir. The one who could show his talents in the royal competition would get into his eyes. He would make that one the crown prince and let him be in charge of the dark firmament divine nation. Later on, that crown prince would make the nation he had developed stronger and dominate the raging flame star area forever without worrying about the other forces. Only the winner of a brutal fight could prove his power and mindset. For his great undertaking, he could kill his brothers that year. And today, he had made his children kill each other. They were the kind of crazily stubborn characters. There was an obvious dispute between him and Dirck. When they were young, they were friends, and even good friends. Because of Ziyao's mother, they diverged. Eventually, their brotherhood cracked and was cut off. He wanted to make Dirck serve him, but he knew for sure the other would never agree. That was why he had sent Princess Ziyao to him, the princess who looked identically to her mother. Standing in front of her, it was hard for Dirck to be heartless. The affection he had for her mother in the past would make him leave his place then. However, it seemed he had a wrong assumption. It was not that Dirck didn't want to help them. However, his premise was that the throne of the dark firmament divine nation should be in Ziyao's hands, and not her brother Dufeng. No matter how hard Ziyao tried to convince him, Dirck wasn't moved. He gritted his teeth and didn't agree with her anything. Ziyao had no ways to persuade him. After staying here for several days, she bid Dirck farewell. Before they left, Dirck pondered for a while and then slipped a ring off his finger, putting it on Ziyao's palm carefully. This ring stores a lot of medicinal pellets I've refined. Many of them are good for you. I'm glad that you've come to see me. Although I can't promise you anything, I won't neglect you. Take it. No matter to build your force or to break into a new realm, you will need them. Ziyao didn't reject. Her slender, jade-like fingers squeezed the ring, her eyes begrudging. Uncle, I know you want the best for me. Don't worry, I will take care of myself well. In the future, if I fail this battle for the throne, I will get back here to meet you. My place is always open for you. As long as you can come here, nothing will matter. Dirck smiled fondly. Your dad's a selfish scoundrel. He's done things only for himself. He will never appreciate or take into account the other's feeling. He won't take care of his family either. When someone dies for him, he will regret for a while, then continue to dip his head into what he calls a great endeavor. Pausing for a while, Dirck looked at Shi Yin for the first time. He frowned, talking with some hidden meanings. You shouldn't be as blind as your mother. Don't find a man like your father. If you do that and I find it, don't blame me. Whoever dares mistreat you, I will kill him. His eyes suddenly became terrifyingly sharp and cold like a sword tip. Under his gaze, Shi Yin felt like he got so many swords placed at his neck. A chill was sent down his spine, as if he would be crushed in the next minute. Dangerous. Shuddering inwardly, Shi Yin confirmed immediately that this Dirck wasn't only a profound alchemist, but also a formidable warrior. Perhaps he was stronger than Delay. Under Dirck's threatening eyes, Shi Yin frowned. His eyes weren't fluttered, but like a rigid block of ice as a cold aura moved around his body. Calm and fearless, Dirck gazed at him without even blinking. After a while, he shifted his sharp eyes, talking calmly. Kid, I don't know who you are, but if you could come here, it's fate. This pellet is for you. Use it as you please. This pellet was verdant, with a fragrance that cheered people up. It sparkled with immense light as it flew towards Shi Yin. Enormous energy fluctuations rippled from that pellet, which clearly seemed amazing and with tremendous medicinal effects. Shi Yin could even hear water murmuring inside the pellet. Shi Yin gathered his spirit and surveyed the pellet. He saw a small leak, which looked like a miniature stream. It flowed naturally, circulating just like veins in a warrior's body. Ziyao's beautiful eyes lit up as her succulent red lips parted. Shi Yin, say thank you. Shi Yin looked at the pellet and sensed its efficacy. His eyes shrank, but he didn't take the pellet. I appreciate your favor, precursor, but I can't take this pellet. Ziyao was surprised. Dirck slightly knitted his eyebrows as his sharp eyes gazed at Shi Yin. He pondered for a few seconds, then the corners of his mouth twitched into a faint smile. Kid, do you know what pellet it is? What are its effects? Shi Yin shook his head. I don't know. The 100 circulation soul pill, a level 4 divine grade pellet. It could nurture your god soul and supplement your blood chi. It's still a big treasure to a third sky of King God Realm warrior. Dirck arched his brow. And you? When you take this pellet, breaking through the King God Realm is just a piece of cake. Condensing the god bodies is easy as flipping a hand. As long as your realm could catch up with your energy and your Upanishad, you will soon enter the King God Realm. This pellet will make countless warriors kill each other to gain it. Pausing for a while, Dirck snorted and then squinted his eyes. One more time, do you want it or not? No, thanks. Shi Yin shook his head, resolutely rejecting the offer. He didn't hesitate, and his eyes didn't shift. He continued faintly, without this 100 circulation soul pill, I'll still break through easily to the King God Realm. I think condensing the god body shouldn't be dependent on external forces. It's the best way for it to happen naturally. Using pellets mean one doesn't believe in oneself. Along my cultivating path, I haven't depended on pellets to break through realms. You arrogant kid, Dirck sneered. You got a shortcut, but you're stubborn. I can tell your achievement in the future will be limited. He turned to Ziyao. This cortege of yours is like a rock, arrogant and firm enough. His realm's high, but his pride isn't low. Harumph. Ziyao smiled, her beautiful eyes glaring at Shi Yin as she said tenderly, this man's always arrogant. Anyway, I think a man who dares to give up a pellet offered to him and wants to use his own power to break through shouldn't be a moron. He just has the absolute confidence. Of course, my follower is the latter kind. All right, not flexible at all, doesn't know how to seize a chance. I think he won't have a great achievement. Dirck waved his hand, taking back his pellet. He seemed not happy at all. All right, don't pretend in front of me. Don't you want to show off in front of Ziyao? I've seen many people like you. Du Tianji acted the same that year. Damn it, my sister liked this manner of his. So disgusting. It seemed he didn't have a good impression of Shi Yin. After talking with a serious face, he urged impatiently. Go. The sort of man like you, if you don't taste bitter things, you won't know how high the sky is. To attract beauties, making oneself the odd one out was the trick many men used. In Dirck's eyes, Shi Yin was this sort of a man, which he absolutely hated. That was why he didn't want to talk to him more. Shi Yin shrugged indifferently and didn't explain anything. Princess Ziyao bid farewell to Dirck for a while. Eventually, she went with Shi Yin back on the old route to the solar star exploding field. Later on, she stooped and chuckled. Are you like what my uncle said? You wanted to show that you were different? What do you think? Shi Yin didn't change his visage, although the corners of his mouth twitched a little bit. I hope you aren't. To be honest, throughout many years, many people have tried to act in front of me. Your deeds and theirs are pretty similar. Ziyao laughed cheerily. If you're like them, I will be happy. At least, I can assure that my charm has never been reduced. Sorry to have failed you, Shi Yin slight bowed to her, talking gently. I just don't want to own that man a favor, so he can't control me in the future. Perhaps he's self-righteous, as he thinks that no one is your match in this life. Anyone approaching you will have a purpose, to capture your glamour, for example. Haha, interesting. Asterisk shoal. Ziyao gritted her teeth. Can I really make you enchanted? Why could the others be and you couldn't? Oh yeah, I'll borrow your words. Do you have health issues? She acted as if she suddenly understood a mystery, nodding and then saying affirmatively. Sure it is. I understand. Ah, I forgive you. I'm sorry for misunderstanding you. I'm so sorry. Shi Yan's face darkened. Ziyao looked at him seriously for a while and then burst out laughing, holding her flat belly. She laughed until her body was shaking, pointing her finger at Shi Yan. Ha ha ha. Interesting. You. Turns out there's something that makes you ridiculous. Ha ha. Look at you now. Shi Yan paused for a while and then accelerated all of a sudden. Just like a shooting light, he glided, passing her while storming forward furiously. The silver bell jingles like laughter arose behind him. Ziyao's face was bright and shining, as if she were overjoyed. She waved her hands cheerily like she had done a great thing. She looked like a blooming flower that tickled people's hearts. Floating behind him, her laughter didn't cease, while her soft body shook tenderly. Her beautiful eyes gazed at Shi Yan's buff back. She mused on him for a while before urging her power to follow him quickly. Chapter 754, Glorious Amethyst Star. Chapter 754, Glorious Amethyst Star. Asterisk this star is named after Izao star. Izao means glorious amethyst, so I translated it literally, TL. The solar star exploding fragment field, a tiger-shark war chariot roared, flashed, and disappeared into the dark, cold universe. Shi Yan and Princess Ziyao were standing on the chariot, watching the immense star sea. They seemed to be happy to see the sunlight again. After leaving Dirck's place, they didn't meet any danger, crossing the solar star exploding fragment field at ease. The tiger-shark war chariot stopped. Ziyao frowned, taking out a delicate blue crystal. She sent her soul consciousness into the stone, trying to contact someone. After a while, a heavy expression appeared on her charming face, her eyes worried. Shi Yan observed quietly. He suddenly felt cold inwardly, sighing as he knew Du Feng had encountered something unexpected. No news from them? Pondering for a while, Shi Yan asked in a soft tone. Ziyao nodded. Before we diverged, I told Berg to meet me outside. I have no news from them. Perhaps they have encountered something unexpected. We stayed idle in the solar star exploding fragment field for a long time. If Berga and Prince Du Feng got out and didn't see us here, perhaps they've gone home already. Your Highness, don't worry much. Shi Yan tried to console her. Ziyao's visage became better. I hope so. If my brother meets anything unexpected, I will never spare them. Shi Yan knew she was talking about Prince Du Jie. Sura was the team leader of his bodyguards. He was in charge of contacting bloody slaughterer Ka Tuo. Ka Tuo's target was Ziyao, and Sura had joined this operation directly. Perhaps they still had another team who was chasing after Du Feng. As Berg and Du Feng weren't here, something bad might have happened to them. Let's go. We should go back first, then we'll return here afterward to search for their whereabouts. Ziyao contemplated for a while. She understood that waiting here wasn't a good solution, but would give Sura a chance to track them down. Shi Yan nodded and didn't say anything else as he sat down on the tiger-shark war chariot. There was no way to measure time precisely in outer space. They could only use a special type of stone to check the time. Shi Yan didn't have such toys, so he didn't know how much time had passed. He only knew that they had spent a long time on this tiger-shark war chariot. A long, long time afterward. On this particular day, they saw a dazzling star appear in their sight. This star was massive, with abundant spiritual chi and countless energy fluctuations of living beings. Ziyao's beautiful eyes glinted while her anxious mind quieted down, and a smile appeared on her face once again. We're almost home. Shi Yan got up, standing in the war chariot and watching the area further ahead of them. He could see some sparkling stars near that massive star. However, due to the far distance, he couldn't sense much or estimate their size and energy. That's the dark firmament divine nation. Ziyao pointed at an area from a far distance. The nation consists of 11 life stars. 10 satellite stars surround one big life star, which is the metropolis star of our dark firmament divine nation. It's called the dark firmament star. My father stays there. That star has 3 suns and 3 moons, the 3 great solar stars, and the 3 great moon stars. They scatter in different areas and light up the divine nation. We will never experience true darkness. Even if it's night time, under the light of the 3 great moons, the place is still lighted up gloriously. Ziyao's face glinted with vainglory. That's where my ancestors guard from generations to generations. It's my hometown. The dark firmament star always belongs to the owner of the divine nation. The 10 life stars surrounding it belong to the princes, princesses, and the king's siblings. Yin looked at that place and was shaken inwardly. He suddenly felt that the dark firmament divine nation was truly mighty and prosperous. Fluctuations of dense energy were sent to him from the nearest star. It should be at least a life star at level 3 or 4, with abundant earth and heaven energy. It was the best place for warriors to cultivate. A life star was a place similar to the Grace Mainland. The area created by 11 life stars was the place where the royal family of the dark firmament divine nation stayed. Of course, the dark firmament divine nation's territory included not just these stars. Other 5 feudal vassals guarded the further areas. They had more than 10 life stars and many mineral stars. Together, they created the powerful status of the dark firmament divine nation. Each feudal vassal, just like Delay, was an expert at the original god realm. From this point of view, the dark firmament divine nation had an extremely large territory and a power that could make people shiver on just hearing their names. It was worthy of being one of 3 strongest forces of the raging flame star area, as it could stand shoulder to shoulder with the Underworld League and the 9-star Chamber of Commerce for 10,000 years. It proved how strong this divine nation was. The tiger shark chariot was still moving at fast speed. Gradually, the life star in front of them became larger. Yin could see so many creatures, beasts, mountains, rivers, lakes, and things. The scenery there was beautiful and heartening. Spiritual herbs and grass were grown in separate areas, where the specialists took care of them. Yan's soul consciousness flickered and his eyes brightened. The soul auras he could sense on that life star were packed like an ant colony. Haha, this is the glorious Amethyst star, the planet belonging to me. It has several thousand people on it, and the same number of beautiful mountains and lakes. You can see attractions everywhere. Ziyao's mood was good. This glorious Amethyst star is named after me. When I was born, my father gifted it to me. Under my management, the glorious Amethyst star can be considered prosperous. Since it's a level 4 life star, it won't be drained even after dozens of thousands of years. Pausing for a while, Ziyao smiled like a blooming flower as her beautiful eyes twinkled. Each prince and princess has their own life stars. My brother also has one. However, his life star is dark and chaotic. His clumsy management has made it messy. Although his star's full of spiritual chi, its order has never been made. Fights happen all the time. He just babbled when he said that he would give you a life star. He can't give you his life star. Of course, if he can take the throne, it will be another story. Yin smiled faintly. I knew it already. You don't need to explain me. What do you think about my glorious Amethyst star? Ziyao asked as the tiger shark war chariot slowly descended, flying towards the central grand palace of the glorious Amethyst star. Purple clouds wound around that group of palaces built from a kind of fulgent purple crystal. Violet nimbus was moving beautifully on those structures. Inside those palaces, Yin could see many artificial mountains and small bridges over the running streams, with flowers blooming everywhere. Spiritual chi stormed into his nostrils. At first glance, this place was both luxurious and dreamy like a fairyland, which could calm people's soul, making them forget all their sorrows. Yin surveyed and watched the magnificent scenery. Many different raced warriors were busying themselves inside and outside the palaces. They were harvesting herbs, feeding spiritual animals, cultivating, or refining medicines and weapons. Everybody was working orderly. It seemed Ziyao had sent them her message. Many warriors were waiting for her solemnly on a massive platform in the central palace. They faced up the sky, waiting in silence. Around 20-some King God Realm warriors, 100 true God Realm warriors, and almost 1,000 Sky Realm warriors were scattered on that massive tall platform. Some of them stooped, while some kneeled down or bowed on the ground, waiting for their master to come home. Seeing their grand welcoming ceremony, Shi Yin suddenly had a complicated feeling. Ziyao was only a princess of the dark firmament divine nation, but she could control such a holy land like this, with a tremendous force under her command. Thinking about the general force of the dark firmament divine nation, the Underworld League, and the 9-star Chamber of Commerce, he understood that his vision had been so narrow. The raging flame star area was mysterious, and much more immense than what he had imagined. The Grace mainland was much smaller than this place. "Welcome back, Your Highness. Welcome back, Your Highness. Welcome back, Your Highness." Loud sounds echoed from the square under their feet. Shortly, the whole area of thousands of miles around was filled with greetings. Any person working outside or inside the palaces, no matter what they were doing, harvesting herbs or feeding beasts, refining medicines and forging treasures, all paused their work, bent, and greeted, contributing to that stream and strengthening its power. The smile on Ziyao's face faded. She looked solemn, even though she wasn't enraged. The imperious manners of a leader appeared on her enchanting face as she said tenderly, "Get up. No need to be too courteous." "Thank you, Your Highness." Several thousand warriors stood up, their faces solemn. They still stooped their heads, without acting too flurried. The tiger-shark war chariot stopped, landing on the center of the high platform. Although it was around 10 meters long, the tiger-shark war chariot looked nothing special landing on this vast platform. Shi Yin observed for a while and found that this square had many battleships and war chariots, most of which were purple. Shi Yin could see some amethyst war chariots, but he couldn't see the amethyst battleship Ziyao used to use. He got it immediately. The amethyst battleship he had dragged into the unknown space was Ziyao's private property. It must be much more precious, as it also was her moving imperial abode. Although she was noble and rich, she wasn't able to fabricate more battleships like that. It proved how precious and extraordinary her amethyst battleship was. "Your Highness, where's your battleship? And where's Berg?" A demon clan's sturdy man with a short beard and high spirits, having a half-naked upper body, stepped forward and asked her while bending his body. The muscles of his entire body bulged like stones, which stored his bursting energy. Ziyao discolored as her eyes glinted with a gleam of fear. "Berg hasn't come back? Berg and Antrim, didn't they go with you?" That sturdy man seemed to be astounded. Shi Yin sighed inwardly. He shook his head, as he understood that something had happened to Berg and Du Feng. Ziyao's voice trembled. "No message from them? How about my brother? Did you hear anything about Prince Du Feng?" "Prince Du Feng's subordinates have come here and asked for him several times. They are searching for him too." The sturdy man changed his visage. "The prince hasn't come back yet. Since the last time he went out, we haven't heard from him." Ziyao's heart sank to the bottom of the abyss. Chill covered her entire body as she stood in a daze. People didn't dare to even breathe loudly. They all understood that something had happened. They were all grim. The entire glorious amethyst star seemed to be overcast by invisible dark clouds. Shi Yin frowned, as his line of sight raked through those people. He suddenly recognized that, perhaps, Du Feng and the others would never appear again. Chapter 755. Source of Upanishad Inheritance. Chapter 755. Source of Upanishad Inheritance. Getting no news about Prince Du Feng and Berg, Ziyao became dispirited. She first asked about the general condition of the glorious amethyst star and solved some minor problems. After that, she took Shi Yin to the Purple Palace. Along their way, many warriors bent on one knee to show their respect for her. Several thousand warriors followed her just like the cortege of a goddess, sending her to her amethyst palace. Shi Yin didn't say anything, just following her. However, he didn't bend his body or stoop his head. He was obviously different from the other warriors. Many warriors of Ziyao's retinue were assessing him discreetly with complicated eyes, as they didn't know his identity. When they knew that Shi Yin was also one of the princess's retinue, they were surprised and frightened inwardly. Princess Ziyao was a noblewoman in the dark firmament divine nation. She had countless members of her retinue, and even the king god realm warriors had to bow to her. Shi Yin was just at the third sky of true god realm. According to common sense, he wasn't worth her special treatment. Anyway, after they had observed for a while, they found that the way Ziyao treated Shi Yin was different. This made many people jealous of him, generating some thoughts in their heads. Who was this kid? What talents did he have? What did he have at the true god realm that your highness had appreciated? They were thinking about him secretly. Shi Yin didn't care about them. He just kept silent and followed Ziyao to her Amethyst palace. You guys can leave. When you have Dufeng or Berg's news, report to me immediately. Ziyao waved her hand tiredly. Pay attention and watch out carefully for me. Brief the situation of the divine nation for me. Many warriors nodded, bent their bodies, and stepped backward. Shi Yin, you choose a room to rest in the Amethyst Palace. We have the training room, the Upanishad hall, and the warehouse that stores all kinds of materials. If you need, just take them. I can also give you my personal collection of materials. Ziyao pondered for a while. You and I have experienced struggles together. At the most critical time, you've shouldered my burden in the battles. You're different from the others. To be honest, when we entered the Forbidden Land, I didn't consider you my cortege. I've considered you my friend. I hope you would treat me the same. Shi Yin let out a tender laugh as he nodded his head. Thank you for appreciating me, Your Highness. You shouldn't put on this face. I know you have all sorts of airs and graces, and many secrets. However, you're not familiar with the Raging Flame Star area yet. This area is too complicated. I believe you will have an immeasurable future. However, your realm's still pretty low at this moment. There are any things you can help me out with? Ziyao rolled her eyes at him. I know you don't respect me wholeheartedly. No problem. The sort of a man like you will never want to be under the others' commands. I understand it. Shi Yin gave a wry smile. I don't. I always think for you. Don't lie. It's not what you mean with your heart, Ziyao harumphed. I want to take a good rest this time and gather myself. You should take care of yourself. Take this jade token. You can freely walk around in the Amethyst Palace. In my glorious Amethyst star, this token represents me. No one will dare to do anything to you. Thank you, Your Highness. Shi Yin took the jade token and wore it on his belt. Waving her hand, Ziyao urged him. Go away. The Amethyst Palace is 300 meters tall. Each level has private training areas. You can choose wherever you want to stay. The jade token also shows the locations of the training rooms, the Upanishad hall, and the material storage. Do whatever you want. Yeah. Since you told me that you're a blacksmith, I won't give you weapons. You can forge your own ones. You also have heaven flames, which would make your weapons more suitable for you. My storage has a lot of materials, which are all rare things in the Raging Flame Star area. I have a lot of skeletons of level 10 beasts, similar to the material you had made your bone thorns with. Do what you want. Shi Yan's eyes sparkled as he slightly bent his body for the first time to talk to the princess. Thank you. This time, he was more sincere. Level 11 beasts could be compared to original God Realm warriors. Their bones were extraordinarily rigid, which were the top quality materials to make weapons. Monster Clan's members at this level had long left the Grace mainland to the foreign lands. Shi Yin had never seen beasts at such level before. The bone thorns made of the bones of a level 10 beast were already intimidating. With space power added to the bone thorns, Shi Yin could control them as he pleased. He had planned to quench them one more time. That was why he wanted to take the vermilion bird skeleton that much. The vermilion bird was also a beast. Shi Yin had assumed that this beast was at least at level 11, or even level 12. However, since the vermilion bird true flame was so persistent, he couldn't do anything but give it up. Of course, if the vermilion bird had reached level 12, he could hardly refine that bird's skeleton. It would be already tough for him to forge the skeleton of a level 11 beast. Ziyao advised a bit more and then left. Her figure flashed, then disappeared into the Amethyst Palace. Shi Yin didn't know where she had gone. Yin stood still and didn't hasten to leave yet. His fingers rubbed the jade token, releasing a flow of soul consciousness while moving inside the jade token. This jade token was a small model of the Amethyst Palace. As its restriction was lifted, Yin could use the jade token to see the structure and the arrangement of different secret chambers in this palace. Which floors were suitable to rest, which were the training rooms, and where the Upanishad hall was, the jade token showed them all. Yin was curious about the Upanishad hall the most. It should be similar to the martial technique hall of the martial spirit palace in the Grace mainland, where they stored the fundamental techniques of different power Upanishads. After Ziyao had left, Yin considered for a while, and then followed the map inside the jade token to find the Upanishad hall in the Amethyst Palace. It was a spacious room, around 1,000 square meters in area, built from amethyst. A giant ancient tree, which was refined from 5 colored crystals, stood in the middle of this large room. This big tree didn't have leaves but crystal-clear branches, which was pretty similar to the essence chi ancient tree in his body. That ancient tree was the source of Upanishad inheritance where countless magical power Upanishads were stored. Warriors could get in there to receive a new power Upanishad. Of course, in many other Upanishad halls, it wasn't always in the shape of a tree. For example, the Corpse clan would make their source of Upanishad inheritance with the shape of a tombstone. The other clans would make it look like a mountain range, the ocean, or even the soul altar. The source of Upanishad inheritance had so many shapes, but they shared the same name and the same functions, which was to help warriors receive the power Upanishad. People had used a magical way to imprint different Upanishad into the source of Upanishad inheritance. When they had new Upanishad, they could always add them all together. The source of Upanishad inheritance was really precious, and only the strongest forces could have them. Eyeing the tree-shaped source of Upanishad inheritance, Yin kept silent. Afterward, he beamed a faint smile. He suddenly got it that the 7 statues of Demogorgon in the first demon area in the Grace mainland were also a source of Upanishad inheritance. However, it was a low-level one, since it had only the martial techniques, but not the fundamental elements of the martial techniques, the power Upanishads. The source of Upanishad inheritance in this place was much better. It had the imprints of the basis of martial techniques. As long as the warrior could learn a kind of power Upanishad and develop it, he could freely create different martial techniques by the principles of nature. Then, he could use that energy in a beautiful way, which would form intricate martial techniques. The giant 5-colored tree in front of him was filled with strange energy fluctuations. Each branch of it seemed to have the distinctive auras of powers Upanishad. Yin released his soul consciousness, making his soul change miraculously and constantly. He then tried to touch the source of Upanishad inheritance. The jade token on his waist suddenly sparkled, and a feeble beam of purple light shot towards the source of Upanishad inheritance in front of his eyes. In the next moment, the barrier on the source of Upanishad inheritance was lifted up. Yan's soul consciousness seized the chance and flooded in. This source of Upanishad inheritance had a tree shape with many branches, which stored different power Upanishads. Yin could see the power Upanishad of metal, wood, water, fire, earth, thunder, storm, hypnotizing, light, and gravity, etc. Countless different power Upanishads were imprinted in the source of Upanishad inheritance. Each branch had the basic techniques for beginners. Of course, the source of Upanishad inheritance wasn't really omnipotent. The Upanishad it showed was just the fundamental rules and principles of a power. Even if a warrior could know them, it didn't mean that he could really cultivate the power and create a power Upanishad tier in his soul altar. Only after truly understanding the essence of the primary power Upanishad and continuing to cultivate and study, would a warrior actually cross the threshold and create the seal of Upanishad in his soul. Normally, a warrior wouldn't cultivate many different types of power Upanishads. Studying one power Upanishad ascetically was enough to consume the whole life effort of a warrior. When a warrior began to cultivate a power Upanishad, he would encounter so many obstacles. The meanings of a power Upanishad were tedious, as if they would never be completely comprehended. And Even if a warrior spent his whole life to cultivate a power Upanishad, it wasn't guaranteed that he could make it to the peak. Even if one were a smart and patient expert, he would only cultivate 2 or 3 powers Upanishad. Moreover, he would choose the powers Upanishad with something in common to save time and create more effects. Only morons would try to study many power Upanishad at once. If he did that, he would never cross the threshold, let alone create a sea of Upanishad in his god soul. Basically, he couldn't create the soul altar to break through to a more profound realm. Without crossing the threshold and cultivating it to a certain depth, a warrior could never bring out the best of his power Upanishad. A warrior's efforts were limited, and the power Upanishad was always too profound. A warrior should normally cultivate only one kind of power Upanishad in his life, which was the correct way and the practicing principle of most of the experts in the Raging Flame Star area. Shi Yin urged his soul consciousness to move around the source of Upanishad inheritance, trying to find some power Upanishad similar to his star, space, and death and life power Upanishad. However, he felt sorry that he could find nothing. Power Upanishads in this place were all popular. Shi Yin had seen the similar martial techniques in the Grace mainland. Apparently, the star, space, and death and life were all high-level power Upanishads. They were special and strange, which made them rare in the Raging Flame Star area. Even Ziyao, with her aristocratic status, couldn't gain such high-quality power Upanishads. That was why Shi Yin couldn't find any similar imprints in the source of Upanishad inheritance. However, Shi Yin was still enticed. Although this source of Upanishad inheritance couldn't offer him big benefits, it was of much use to his friends and relatives in the perpetual night forest if they could come here and use the soul consciousness to perceive the power Upanishad. Shi Yin sank into his thoughts while gazing at the source of Upanishad inheritance for a while. Afterward, he left to the material storage to find the suitable bones for his bone thorns. Chapter 756. The Best Quality Bone Material. Chapter 756. The Best Quality Bone Material. In Ziyao's private storage, Shi Yin found many chambers under different lists, storing many kinds of materials. Some rooms stored many mineral ores and crystals. The others kept delicate wooden materials, which had natural patterns. Shi Yin also found a room filled with beautiful jades having many shapes and different functions. All chambers here had a detailed written description. For example, the bone material room Shi Yin was checking out just now. The bone material room wasn't so spacious, around 1,000 square meters. Pieces of strange bones were put on greenish-brown shelves. Some of them were translucent like gems, some looked rusted, while the others still had a lot of blood stains and a thick, bloody scent. More than a dozen kinds of bone materials were classified in different zones. A label, which was placed in front of each bone, described each material in detail, reading which beast it came from, name and level of the beast, class, attributes, and how to refine the bone. Shi Yin took a walk around the bone material room. He wasn't hurried. His eyes twinkled as he was praising this area. Bone materials that Ziyao had collected weren't normal. The lowest rank here belonged to a level 9 beast, and the rest belonged to beasts with special features. Bones of level 10 beasts weren't a rare item in this place. They were put neatly on the shelves with a detailed introduction. Shi Yin strolled around, stroking the bones he had passed by passionately. Sometimes he frowned, and sometimes his eyes glinted as he beamed a faint smile. Monsters at level 10 could be compared to King Godrealm experts. Usually, they were all tough and tenacious. Beasts of different classes were different, and their bones were distinctive. Some bones were as light as a feather, while the others were even heavier than iron or rock. This feature depended on the beast class. Shi Yin still walked around while his 10 fingers touched each piece of bone here. He found so many kinds of bones with different attributes, many of which were priceless bone materials. Of course, he wanted to see the skeleton of the level 11 BC Yao had mentioned the most. Holding the purple jade token in his hand, he sauntered to a corner of the bone materials room. This place had a clear energy fluctuation. Around 10 bones of 3 to 8 meters were placed on a massive amethyst platform. These bones also had a label, but it wasn't clear enough. However, Those simple words had struck Shi Yin inwardly, making him put all of his attention on them. Material, level 11. Name of beast, unknown. Functions, unknown. Shi Yan's eyes sparkled with a strange light. He eyed those tin bones and hesitated for a while, before picking up a piece of black bone. He didn't know what kind of beast this bone belonged to, but it was totally black, with a shiny dark halo. It felt so cold and heavy in Shi Yan's hand. Shi Yan's palm felt cool while holding this piece of bone. He suddenly felt a mountain-like heavy aura diffusing to his face from the bone. This bone was so heavy that Shi Yan had to urge his energy to hold it. Shi Yan's face changed as he closed his eyes and felt. From this piece of bone, he could sense the thick and heavy aura of earth. Shi Yan shook his head discreetly, putting this bone down. His eyes shifted to the other bones in front of him. The bone he wanted shouldn't be too heavy, or else it would be hard to promote space power of his soul consciousness. The feature of coming and going without leaving any trace was what he needed the most. The bones that could promote space power must be sharp, swift, and extremely tough. Heavy wasn't what he wanted. He needed to avoid this feature. His fingers surfed above the bones, as if he were stroking his lover's skin. No, too brittle. It can't stand the space power. Nah, not this one. Too blunt. Even if it's quenched, it can't be sharp enough to break the god domain. This one isn't good either. While his fingers glided above the bones, his soul consciousness penetrated them. Shi Yin could feel the attributes and the special features of each bone. The bone materials on this platform belonged to the skeleton of an unknown level 11 beast. However, most of them had no energy remaining in them. Some still had a little of energy remnants, but the attributes weren't suitable. They were too brittle or too blunt, or had the attributes Shi Yin didn't need, such as Thunderbolt. Closing his eyes, his soul consciousness continued to move around the bones on the platform via his fingers. He suddenly opened his eyes, gazing at a 6 meters long bone that was as wide as his fist. This bone looked like a piece of translucent white jade, with many holes on the surface, which seemed to be created naturally and were part of the bone. Shi Yin couldn't find any flaw in this bone. Shi Yin placed his finger on a small hole on the bone. Immediately, he felt a gust, as if a furious wind was howling and storming out of that small hole, tearing his eardrum. Hiss, hiss, hiss. From the finger placed on the tiny hole, the hissing wind stormed into his soul. It felt like it was a real wind cutting his skin. Shi Yin was shaken inwardly. He stooped, studying the bone while his eyes brightened. After a while, he laughed happily. Tough, sharp, and belongs to a wind-class beast. Also has some remaining energy that I can use. Top-quality bone material. Swoosh. The 6 meters long bone flew up, slowly landing on his finger, floating in front of him. The vermilion bird true flame flew out from his soul altar. Under his thought, it turned into a flaming fluid ring, enveloping the bone. Shi Yan's face was filled with smiles. You refine it and extract all the impurities. I'm going to choose the auxiliary materials to increase its sharpness, flexibility, and speed. He left the bone and the vermilion bird true flame in the room, then flew towards Zi Yao's private material chambers. He busied himself in raking up Zi Yao's materials to choose the suitable materials to increase the bone's attributes and power. Disaster suddenly fell on the cultivating materials Zi Yao had been collecting for years. The chambers that stored materials became a mess after Shi Yan's visit. To gather the auxiliary materials quickly, Shi Yan moved like a tornado sweeping through the storage. Whenever he found a good item, he picked it up, gave it an examination, and put it directly into his storage ring. His operation was like a hungry wolf snatching its prey, searching and taking. Finally, he had even affected Zi Yao, who was taking rest in her private Amethyst palace. A delicate, 5-colored formation in the jade chamber glistened. In the next moment, a charming figure appeared inside the divine light. Princess Zi Yao was wearing a purple dress, her eyes gloomy. She weakly walked out of the formation inaudibly. The man who was rummaging pieces of jade and gem hadn't recognized her as he was still searching. He even mumbled to himself, "Wind attribute, better to be wind attribute. No, not this one. Oh, sh*t. Not this one either. Ziyao frowned her bold brows. She was a little bit angry, staring at his back for a while. Afterward, seeing the man was not stopping his deed, she couldn't help but shout, "Do you want to destroy my material chambers?" Shi Yan's back suddenly got upright. He suddenly turned around, throwing her a glance and smiling brightly. "No, I don't." Regarding her for a second, he turned around and continued his business of collecting materials. He ignored Ziyao one more time. After a while, he craned his head from the mess of jades and gems. His eyes looked happy as if he had found something good eventually. "Your territory is so good. Thanks a ton for your favor, Your Highness. I think I can refine my bone thorns now." Then he nodded, and a wind passed by Ziyao as he rushed to the bone materials room. Princess Ziyao's face grimaced. She was angry as the other had ignored her completely. She gritted her teeth and then walked to the bone material room. A red-orange flame covered a 6 meters long crystal bone. From time to time, the crystal bone would drop some drops of brownish-gray viscous fluid. Those were the melted impurities inside the bone. As the bone was being refined by the vermilion bird true flame, wind would sometimes hiss through the tiny holes on the bone. Gradually, the bone became scarlet and angular like a sharp spear. Shi Yan hadn't realized that she had come too. His face was serious while beautiful gems and strange stones flew out of his sparkling storage ring. An energy then guided them towards the bone. The vermilion bird true flame burst out its energy, and a red-orange flame covered those precious jades and gems, starting to refine them. Shi Yan was serious as he sat down cross-legged right in front of Princess Ziyao. His soul altar started to rotate while his hands were constantly making magical hand seals and formations. Energy under formations and seal forms struck the bone. Shi Yan touched his glabella. A flow of flaming energy carrying the sun original essence aura poured into the bone like a bunch of light. It then entered the bone through the tiny holes on its surface. Shi Yan closed his eyes, while his hands started to move and carve the formations swiftly and unconsciously. Fine space lights appeared and sizzled. Under the support of some mysterious energy, they poured into the bone, and then strongly changed its structure. Hundreds of hand seals and formations entered the bone like fading shadows. The bone suddenly emitted an earth-shaking whistle. The strong wind howled through the small holes in the bones. The beautiful jades and strange gems were all melted into a magical fluid. Shi Yan's miraculous hand seals and formations sank into this fluid, and then they all merged with the strange energy inside the bone, increasing its power and ability. Princess Ziyao was dizzy and astounded on watching Shi Yan refining the bone. After a long time, her beautiful eyes glistered as she muttered, "He's really a blacksmith. From his bearings, I think his grade isn't low either." A flame was burning on the bone, turning it into a scarlet hue as if it were heating up well. Magical hand seals and formations suddenly disappeared, and the tiny holes on the bone cracked, turning into narrow slits. It seemed the bone was crushed and rebuilt. Those slits appeared as if it had suffered from sharp slashes or chops. However, on a closer look, it was visible that each eyelet and slit had stored an extremely sharp space energy, which was like a wind blade that could cut and crush everything. Chapter 757. Refined Divine Weapon. Chapter 757. Refined Divine Weapon. The wind howled ear-piercingly, tearing the air inside the bone material room. It was like a sharp weapon was prickling people's eardrums, making the soul twinge as if it was pierced by a needle. The bone thorn wasn't visible in the bone material room, but it was howling fiercely. Also, there was no strange energy surging. The wind howl seemed to hide in space slits, making it hard to detect. Shi Yan squinted. His aura was cold, sharp, and wicked, just like a spear, giving people a weird feeling. The vermilion bird true flame got back to Shi Yan's soul altar. The ground in front of him was full of black and gray viscous substance, the contaminants extracted from the bone thorns. The wind wailed unceasingly, crying in the bone material room. This eardrum-tearing sound discolored Ziyao. Although she had urged her soul fluctuation as a third sky of king god realm warrior rippling around the room, she couldn't find the bone thorns. The howling didn't stop. She was sure that the bone thorns were still in this bone material room, yet she couldn't sense or lock them, or find their whereabouts. This was evilly strange. With her king god realm cultivation base, she couldn't detect the bone thorns Shi Yin had refined and controlled. It was not normal at all. Also, it made her have a higher valuation of Shi Yan's blacksmithing techniques. The howls stopped all of a sudden. 3 crystal-clear bone thorns appeared, each being 2 meters long with 2 pointy ends like 2 spears connected to each other. The bone thorns had so many fine slits on their bodies, as if they were made by slashes of a sharp weapon. At first glance, these 3 bone thorns looked like trash. However, with a closer look and the soul to sense, sharp energy of space could be detected from those fine cracks. Carving space power Upanishad on the bone thorns was a strange but excellent technique, which made Ziyao interested in these 3 bone thorns. She wanted to know which grade they were at. So, she waved her exquisite small hand in the air, drawing something to open a restriction. A light purple light sparkled, and a lozenge tool appeared in the center of a formation inside the bone material chamber. Ziyao smiled, walking towards the tool and talking to Shi Yin. This tool ranking stone can grade the quality of your 3 bone thorns. Want to try? Shi Yin agreed frankly. The 3 bone thorns reappeared, hovering next to the thing called the tool ranking stone. Countless glorious energy filaments extended from inside the lozenge tool. They shone on the 3 bone thorns like tentacles, as if they were measuring and verifying their quality. What kind of a criteria does this tool use? From a distance, Shi Yin glared at the thing with astonishment. Of course, it will check the tool's flexibility, sharpness, endurance, bearing capacity, etc. If your weapon has a spirit, it'll measure the weapon spirit's grade. Also, it will check the combination of materials and level of impurities or contaminants. There are so many criteria to evaluate. Ziyao smiled, craning her white neck towards Shi Yin. I can't explain it clearly in detail. This tool ranking stones made by the blacksmiths who could forge divine grade secret treasures. I don't know their criteria clearly. Anyway, it couldn't be wrong. Shi Yin nodded as his interest was aroused. He also wanted to know which grade the bone thorns he had dedicatedly fabricated were at. The bone thorns were made of a bone of a level 11 beast of wind class, together with 12 kinds of beautiful jades, gems, and ironstone to increase the flexibility, sharpness, and speed. They were refined by heaven flame to extract contaminants. With hand seals and formations from the blacksmith's secrets of success, Shi Yin had poured and created the energy by adding space power and the flaming solar energy. This set of treasure had been invested with Shi Yin's enthusiasm and effort. He had made use of all of available resources to create them. He also had a great expectation for the quality of those bone thorns. Light spots sparkled on the tool ranking stone. 7 light spots glinted, and then combined into one. A dazzling light flooded the area, turning into a sparkling light, like a small star, then slowly vanishing. Ziyao's bright eyes showed that she was disbelieving, as she dazedly looked at the strange state of the tool raking stone. Her succulent red lips convulsed as she muttered something in her throat. Shi Yin didn't hear it clearly. He frowned and then asked impatiently, "What did you just say?" Ziyao's chest jolted upright. She took several breaths to steady her mind. Then, she glared at him with an odd countenance. Level 1 Divine Grade. You are a divine grade blacksmith. The 3 bone thorns of yours all have the characteristics of level 1 divine grade treasures. Huh. Shi Yin grinned as he felt contented. Divine grade? He had never imagined he could refine a divine grade secret treasure in the Grace mainland. He had never thought that he could use the level 11 beast skeleton to refine 3 bone thorns successfully in this area. Also, the 3 bone thorns had been added with his special powers Upanishad. We have so many divine grade alchemists in the Raging Flame Star area, each of whom holds a superior position in their forces. However, the divine grade blacksmiths are still rare. Our Dark Firmament Divine Nation has only 2 divine grade blacksmiths. Ziyao paused and then eyed him seriously. Among tens of thousands of blacksmiths in the entire Raging Flame Star area, not more than 10 blacksmiths could create divine-grade secret treasures. In the Raging Flame Star area, the blacksmiths were rarer than alchemists, so their status is higher than the alchemist. Thus, when Ziyao eyed him again, her beautiful eyes seemed to be about to illuminate. Shi Yin beamed a faint smile, talking deliberately. I'm just an amateur blacksmith. Don't plan anything on me. I won't give up my cultivation just to refine treasures for you. He understood that he could forge a divine-grade secret treasure because of the level 11 beast skeleton and the level 5 vermilion bird true flame that had extracted all the impurities in the bone thorns, making it precious. Without these two conditions, and with his not-so-experienced techniques, he could never refine the divine-grade bone thorns. As his mind flickered, the 3 bone thorns disappeared into his storage ring. Shi Yin smiled, stretching his body. I'm tired, and I need to rest now. Your Highness, do as you please. Ziyao's beautiful eyes were shining like the torch while looking at him. Divine-grade blacksmith. Shi Yin, don't you think you should do something for me? You should know that my bone materials here are all precious. And you've used a lot of my auxiliary materials, too. Do you want to take everything for free? Didn't you tell me to do that? Shi Yin was surprised. When you gave me the jade token, you told me that I can use everything here as I please. I did, but I didn't say that they are free, did I? Princess Ziyao laughed, her eyes cunning. You've used a lot of my materials. Shouldn't you make something to compensate? Shi Yin kept silent, frowning as he thought about how to reject her. Princess Ziyao wasn't hurried. She just smiled, looking at him. She didn't leave, as though she was adamant on getting his affirmation before leaving. Right when they were still struggling and watching each other, cheers resounded outside the Amethyst Palace. Ziyao's eyes lit up, letting out a light sigh. Did my spoiled little brother come back? She turned into a bunch of purple light, flashing and then disappearing. Shi Yin was amazed. He curiously flew out of the bone material room to the outside of the Amethyst Palace as well. 100 meters long silver bird battleship slowly landed on the spacious square. A dazzling blonde man flew out of the battleship, smiling tenderly. Some King God Realm warriors followed him. Silver bird war chariots emerged from the silver battleship, all of them filled with precious materials. Aogera's back? Hey, it's Aogera. Many warriors staying in the glorious Amethyst Star got out of their places, cheerily screaming from a far distance. That handsome blonde man was brawny, with a shining smile. He continually nodded his head to greet the other warriors. Seemed like he was pretty familiar with them. When Princess Ziyao got out of her palace, she also went to welcome the handsome man called Aogera. As he saw her, his eyes didn't lay on anyone else. He strode towards her, kneeled down on one knee, while talking to her like the most humble knight. Your Highness, you've been struggling hard. Smiling sincerely, he placed a tender kiss on Princess Ziyao's hand, then stood up gently. You too. Ziyao smiled mildly. Like the noblest queen, she let him kiss her hand and then asked him, Aogera, how is it going? Thanks to your grace, everything's smooth. The blonde man smiled as if any difficult matter would turn easy in his hands. Shi Yin, come to say hello to Aogera, my most competent messenger. He's not my guard. Glorious Amethyst Star laughed happily, waving her jade-like hand at Shi Yin. Shi Yin was surprised. He sauntered and nodded at the blonde man from a far distance. Aogera was amazed, his eyes skeptical. He looked at the other man, nodded to him, and then turned to Ziyao. Your Highness, is he your new retinue? True. Ziyao smiled mildly, her beautiful eyes carrying some deep meanings. He saved me in the solar star exploding fragment field. Aogera, even though he hasn't reached the King God realm yet, his potential's excellent. I favor him a lot. Oh, the blonde man replied faintly as he didn't put it in his mind. He hesitated a while before lowering his voice. Your Highness, I got something I want to report you privately about. Prince Dufeng. Ziyao trembled in fright. Follow me. Her figure flashed like an electric wisp, flying directly into the Amethyst Palace. Aogera followed her. Yin stood at his spot, his face unchanged. He looked at the materials on the war chariots and the other warriors following Aogera. He was surprised inwardly. Among those King God Realm warriors, there was one at the third sky of King God Realm. He was a dangerous member of this team. All members of his crew, including that man, looked at Aogera with respect and support. It seemed like Aogera was their true master and not Ziyao. Aogera was at the second sky of King God Realm, one rank lower than Ziyao. He was considered one of the retinues of Ziyao. In other words, his status was like Yan's. But why could he have his own organization? Yan couldn't guess anything, so he discreetly became more cautious. He vaguely felt that the man called Aogera didn't look at him with a friendly attitude. It seemed he was trying to conceal his murderous aura. Suddenly, Yan understood that Aogera had soon known about him and every operation of his from the time he had arrived in the glorious Amethyst star. However, this man was trying to hide things and ignore him. Yan suddenly understood and couldn't help but beam a forced smile, shaking his head begrudgingly. Chapter 758, Heaven Flames Ascension. Chapter 758, Heaven Flames Ascension. Although he was Princess Ziyao's escort, Aogera seemed to have a high status and position. He had his own cortege, and he seemed to be the other master of the glorious Amethyst star. His subordinates were managing people to transport the materials from the flying bird war chariots. They even shouted at the onlookers to ask them to give a hand. Those who were called didn't resist. Quite the contrary, they looked happy working for the warriors under Aogera's commands. They unloaded the materials and transported them to many places. Princess Ziyao and Aogera had left to the Amethyst Palace to talk about issues related to Dufeng and Dirck. Yin observed for a while, then beamed a forced smile as he got it eventually. Yin didn't return to the Amethyst Palace, leaving this place alone. He had been to the glorious Amethyst star for a while, but he had always stayed inside the Amethyst Palace and never got out or talked with Princess Ziyao's underlings. That was why he didn't have a clue about Aogera's position and status. Yin understood that he had been staying in a bit too much, so he wanted to walk around to check the situation of the glorious Amethyst star. He should better have more knowledge of this area, as it would help him a lot later. Glorious Amethyst star was a continent. Although it wasn't as vast as the Grace mainland, his soul consciousness couldn't cover it all. This place was filled with heaven and earth energy, many spiritual animals, and rare flora. All of those belonged to Princess Ziyao of the Dark Firmament Divine Nation, the owner of this beautiful planet. Yin left that group of palaces. Seeing the amethyst token on his waist, the guards moving back and forth slightly bent their bodies to greet him on the way. People holding the amethyst token could visit anywhere in the Amethyst Palace, as they were the distinguished guests of the glorious Amethyst star. They could go anywhere without having any restrictions. With the token, his trip was smooth. He soared up into the sky, flying above the glorious Amethyst star, looking at the sky with 3 dazzling suns and immersing himself in the sunlight. Yin felt more comfortable and relaxed. His mind flickered, and the 3 bone thorns roared, flying towards the mountain range, disappearing shortly. Ear-piercing screams echoed from the center of the mountain ranges. Many spiritual animals had to hide in fright. The bone thorns were like invisible sharp weapons, swaying in the mountains. People could only hear the wind hissing, but not find out their whereabouts. Shortly, Yin was floating in the air, while his eyes sparkled with a fiercely cold light. PFFF. A verdant mountain flank in front of him suddenly had a fist-sized hole. It looked so deep that he couldn't even see the bottom. His eyes glued to the hole. Yin squinted to sense with a grin. 3 blazing bunches of light abruptly illuminated. 3 crystal-clear bone thorns were floating in front of him steadily. Silver light radiated from them, full of magical energy fluctuations. Yin waved his hand, and the 3 bone thorns disappeared. Yin was satisfied, smiling as he flew forward once again. After the bone thorns were quenched, their endurance and sharpness became extraordinary. With the energy of Yan's soul consciousness, He could use the bone thorns to use his space power. The bone thorns could hide in space slits to avoid being detected by the opponent's soul consciousness. These 3 bone thorns would be sharp weapons in his hand, which could perform tremendously in a life and death battle. With high spirit, he flew through the mountains, lakes, and forests. After several hundred miles, he glided through a vast area of so many cities. Most of the residents of those cities were ordinary people with different races. Sure Yin could sense some warriors, but their realms weren't so high. Strongest warriors would wear purple clothes. Apparently, they were under Princess Ziyao's management. On behalf of her, they would control those cities. Most of the cities there looked like the Sky Meteor City in the Quiet Cloudland, or the Wonderful Stone City in the Divine Great Land. Each city would have a city master to manage the entire operations of the city. All the city masters were Ziyao's subordinates. They would help her find the potential warriors in the city to nurture them, which could help her in the future. Taxes would be submitted on time, turning into Ziyao's properties. Sure Yin got there, walking through the cities. He had put the token away so that nobody would notice him. Gliding above the cities, Sure Yin found that the city masters of many cities in the glorious Amethyst star were only at the true God realm. In some small cities, the city masters were only at the spirit realm or sky realm. Those cities constituted the glorious Amethyst star, surrounding the purple palaces where Ziyao stayed, which was the only ruling structure of the planet. In the eyes of those several thousand people, Ziyao was their queen, their master forever. Some of them even had never heard of the Dark Firmament Divine Nation or the Underworld League. Most of her people had never left the glorious Amethyst star. Only warriors with potential would be selected. Afterward, they could move to the palaces where Ziyao stayed to receive the power Upanishad inheritance. Then, they would have to cultivate and go through tests to earn their status and positions. They could be Ziyao's guards or workers at the herbal fields, or even take care of her spiritual animals. Ziyao had many cities, but the heaven and earth energy in those cities weren't the same. Some were rich in energy, while many of them had thin layers of spiritual energy. Only where Ziyao was staying had the thickest heaven and earth energy. After several days of staying in the glorious Amethyst star, he had some understanding about this life star. Sure Yin evaluated to plan where he should establish a city for his family and friends from the Grace mainland, so that they could stay and live happily. Different from the Grace mainland, members of different clans could live together in harmony here. They wouldn't be hostile toward the others due to racism, which could lead to a bloody battle where either of them had to die. Ziyao had chosen the best subordinates. She didn't care about races, just their realms and competences, and how much they could support her. After several days of taking a tour around the glorious Amethyst star, Sure Yin had a deeper understanding of this life star. Through a true God realm city master, he got to know Ao Gera's identity. Ao Gera at the second sky of King God realm was the son of Ao Ladai, the blood sister of Ao Gu Duo, one of the 5 feudal vassals. Ao Ladai got married to a leader of a small force near the border of Ao Gu Duo's territory. To take over that force, Ao Gu Duo made his sister marry that leader, which was solely to merge that force into his territory. Ao Gera had shown his extraordinary innate talents when he was pretty young. He was excellent in cultivation, so Ao Ladai and her husband had always indulged him. One of the 5 great feudal vassals of the Dark Firmament Divine Nation, Ao Gu Duo didn't get married. He didn't have any children, so he had treated this talented nephew as if he were his blood son. He had favored him so much that he had taught Ao Gera the meanings of martial path himself for a period of time. Ao Gera was a prominent young man in the Dark Firmament Divine Nation. After he had seen Ziyao the first time, it seemed he had fallen under her spell. He decided to follow Ziyao and pledged to protect her welfare and honor. When Ao Gu Duo and Ao Ladai found out about his decision, they had tried everything to oppose it. However, the young man was persistent. He had given up everything and moved to the glorious Amethyst star alone, becoming Ziyao's escort. Due to his special status, Ziyao was proud and happy to have him as her retinue. She had always treated him well, considering him her friend. She even let him take care of many big cities on her planet. After Ao Gera followed Ziyao, his realm had never been stagnant, but always advanced, which had cheered his Uncle Aogu duo a lot. Later on, he forgave the young man for his deed and sent the experts under his command to be Aogera's cortege. That was why Aogera was a special character of Ziyao's cortege. His origin wasn't bad, and he also had a firm backup in his own organization. Due to his admiration for Ziyao, he was willing to humble himself and become her escort. After Shi Yin knew of Aogera's identity, he was amazed, sighing with emotion for this man's deeds. He had an outstanding background, but he had given it up for Ziyao. He had harassed himself being her guard. If this man didn't have a deep affection for her, he should have been a cunning, wicked man. No matter what kind of character this young man was, Shi Yin staying close to Ziyao in the Amethyst Palace would rouse his envy. That was why Aogera didn't give him a comfortable feeling when he looked at him. Shi Yin understood that if he were him, he would have been enraged too. Shaking his head begrudgingly, Shi Yin forced a smile while looking at the purple palaces and sighing. He pondered for a while, then returned to the place. A feeble flame arose in his sea of consciousness as a wonderful thought crossed his mind. Although he didn't change his speed, his focus was now on his sea of consciousness. On the heaven flame soul altar, the earth flame, the Een spirit ghost flame, and the corpse vanishing flame were sending out energy fluctuations. Their flames were flickering on the soul altar, as though they were about to wake up. Shi Yan's eyes lit up. When they were in the solar star exploding fragment field, the earth flame was the first one who went dormant. While fighting against the vermilion bird true flame, the Een spirit ghost flame, and the corpse vanishing flame had absorbed a lot of the strange energy in that forbidden land. Afterward, these two flame quieted down as well. Today, it had been half a year since then, and these three heaven flames were about to wake up. He was a little bit excited. Shi Yin pulled himself together and observed the situation. Not long after that, the earth flame boomed, releasing so many flames. It circled the soul altar and then stopped, sending him its thought. I've reached level 4. Shi Yin was astounded. That fast? The volcano crystal nucleus and the sun original essence are the best precious items for me to ascend. Having them, of course, I can leap up swiftly, the earth flame answered him cheerily. And me? The deep thought of the corpse vanishing flame slowly arose. I've reached level 3. The corpse chi there was abundant. I'm lucky to have broken through another level. Haha, I've reached level 5. I should have reached level 5 earlier though. The Een spirit ghost flame was thrilled. This flame was the same as the vermilion bird true flame. They were both at level 5, the highest ranked heaven flames among this group. The 9 serenity soul devouring flame used to be at level 4. However, since it had been confined for so many years, it was degraded back to level 3. Contrary to it, the earth flame, the flame that gained intellect the last, had leaped from level 2 to level 4 thanks to its miraculous encounter. After that event, this flame had benefited the most. Feeling the joy of the heaven flames in his soul altar, Shi Yin also smiled while slowly flying toward the purple palaces, heading to the Amethyst Palace. Hi guys. GOS will go premium this April 11th. I hope that you guys can keep supporting me, Smiley. My new website Sigma Novel. Com just launched 4 new novels a few days ago. I hope that you guys can support my website also. By the way, if GOS can make it way back to top 20, I'll release 5 extra chapters. Top 15 to 8 extra chapters. Top 10 to 7 extra chapters each week in 2 weeks. Chapter 759. The Purgatory Token. Chapter 759. The Purgatory Token. The Amethyst Palace was the symbol of the supreme power in the glorious Amethyst Star. It was also Ziyao's palace, where she resolved her business and cultivated. However, it was different today. 2 lines of guards were standing on both sides of the stairs in front of the Amethyst Palace. Behind them sat a third sky of King God Realm warrior near the entrance. That warrior was Aogera's subordinate, who had just come back with him. Shi Yin had seen him before. Shi Yin frowned and then put on his usual countenance, walking towards the Amethyst Palace. Suddenly, 2 lines of guards standing solemnly on the steps stopped him with unfriendly faces while one of them shouted, "Stop! These 2 lines of guards had 14 warriors in total. Each line had 7 guards holding long silver spears, sparkling sharply. 14 pairs of eyes shot towards Shi Yin with caution. Their spears shivered slightly, sending an extraordinary energy fluctuation. All of them were at the True God realm, with half at the peak of True God realm. Their auras were much more intimidating than his. Shi Yin changed his visage, then snorted and took out the jade token he was wearing on his belt. The princess gave me this jade token. She said that I could enter the Amethyst Palace freely. I've been away for several days, and this Amethyst Palace has had a new master now? As the guard saw the token, his face became strange. He didn't answer but turned around, looking at the warriors standing behind them. The old man still closed his eyes as he slowly rose his indifferent voice. The princess has set off to Dark Firmament Star to find the king and ask for justice. Before she left, she had advised that when she's absent, Aogera will be in charge of the Amethyst Palace. Currently, Aogera is cultivating inside the Amethyst Palace. He doesn't want anybody to disturb him. He has advised that we can't let anybody enter the Amethyst Palace before he wakes up. With the jade token granted by the princess, I still can't go? Shi Yin snorted with a cold face. Isn't it true that the princess' words are the rules in the glorious Amethyst Star? Bull! The old man shouted. A sharp aura shot out from his body instantly, seeming like a sharp sword. His closed eyes slowly opened, gazing at Shi Yin furiously. Of course, Princess Zi Yao's the master of the glorious Amethyst Star. It will never change. However, the princess isn't here. She has told us that in her absence, Aogera shall be in charge. Today, Aogera is cultivating inside the Amethyst Palace, and no one is allowed to disturb him. It doesn't matter that you have the token or not. You are not allowed to get in. Otherwise, don't blame me. When this man was talking, his voice was amplified. Many warriors on the square could hear his voice, so they came close to observe. Many warriors from the other palaces walked out with frowning face. They came to check what was happening there. Not long afterward, the beefy demon clan's warrior whom Shi Yin had seen before walked out from a palace, still bearing his chest. He appeared and harumphed while walking towards Shi Yin shortly. He shouted mockingly at that man, "Yuan, although our master isn't here, I think it's not your job to control everything, eh? Then, what is a major domo like me to do?" The old man put on a serious countenance. "I protect the Amethyst Palace for Aogera. It's to prevent some low-realm people from being crushed into powder by his god domain while he's cultivating." Then, the old man closed his eyes again, as if he didn't want to talk much to the demon clan's brawny man. The major domo stood outside the Amethyst Palace, looking at the place with a dark face, as if he was releasing his energy to sense something. After a while, he knitted his brows and asked Shi Yin, "Did you put anything in there?" "No." Shi Yin shook his head as his ruthless eyes lingered on Yuan for a while. "Follow me. Princess had arranged something for you before she left." The beefy demon man turned away, walking on the square. Shi Yin followed him. What happened? Shi Yin tried to probe for information from that sturdy man. Aogera said that he found the corpses of Berg and Antrim, but he didn't see Prince Dufang's. The demon man hesitated for a while and then turned around. Princess was worried that Prince Dufang would be in big trouble. She went to the Dark Firmament Star to ask for the king's opinions. Before she left, she did say that Aogera would be in charge of the glorious Amethyst Star. It has always been like that. Shi Yin nodded as he understood. You've not been familiar with the glorious Amethyst Star yet. Even if the princess trusts and favors you, it's impossible that she would let you manage the glorious Amethyst Star. You would ruin it. The demon man explained. The princess does favor you a lot. Otherwise, she wouldn't give you her jade token. Shi Yin nodded again. This is what princess wanted to give you, the Purgatory token. This is how you can go to the extreme Purgatory field. The beefy man held a token with both his hands, which wasn't made of jade or gold, then handed it to Shi Yin with a solemn face. Actually, his respect wasn't for Shi Yin but the Purgatory token. Shi Yin received the token, gathering his spirit to check it. This token had a triangular shape, with a white bone crown carved on it. The white bone crown was supported by several pale bones above a pond of blood. Shi Yin caressed the token. All of a sudden, he had a brutal thought of killing people. It seemed like the token had many resentful ghosts screaming inside it. The king had forged the Purgatory tokens himself. The bloody white bone crown is the symbol of the royal family of the divine nation. Shi Yin nodded, closed his eyes, and caressed the white bone crown on the token. He felt his blood qi increase abruptly as the killing desire arose in him. Frightened, Shi Yin didn't dare to sense further. He hastened to put the Purgatory token into his storage ring, then asked, "Did the princess advise me anything before she left?" "She wants you to go to the Purgatory star. The extreme Purgatory field is there. And take the Amethyst war chariot she gave you." The man pointed at a brand new fulgent Amethyst war chariot. This beautiful chariot was apparently of a better quality than the others parked around this area. The extreme Purgatory field is about to open. People holding this Purgatory token can go there. When you get to the Purgatory star, show them the token. They will take care of you and explain everything. Shi Yin smiled, then slightly bent his body. "Thank you, Majordomo. What's your name?" "Ai Fu La." The demon man hesitated for a while and then beamed a bright smile, telling his name. His eyes rolled as he was considering something. Then, he continued in a low voice. "The princess and Aogera had a dispute because of this token. My men overheard it accidentally." Shi Yin was bewildered. He paused for a while, and then looked at the other man with a solemn visage. "Thank you. Don't worry. Be careful. Our princess appreciates you, so don't fail her. The quotas of the extreme Purgatory field are very precious. As she wants to send you there, she does favor you a lot. At this moment, she needs more support. I hope that you would give her strong support in the near future," Ai Fu La said with a serious countenance. Apparently, he was quite loyal and dedicated to Princess Ziyao. He had always thought for Ziyao. As long as something benefited her, he wouldn't hesitate to do it. He would fulfill everything Ziyao asked him to do. "All right, I got it. Thanks again," Shi Yin said heavily, then got in the Amethyst war chariot. He found that all the restrictions and barriers were lifted. He could use his soul consciousness to drive the chariot directly. Shi Yin sent his soul consciousness into the station of the Amethyst war chariot. A constellation map arose, showing the location of the glorious Amethyst star and the Purgatory star. At first glance, Shi Yin learned his route immediately. Shi Yin knew that Ziyao had prepared everything for him before she left. She even set the map for him, so he didn't need to do anything. "You should check it carefully. This war chariot has been used by so many people. I've seen Aogera's men adjust it too," Ai Fu La suddenly said, his words implying something. Shi Yin was surprised. He released his soul consciousness to sense the energy fluctuation in this war chariot. Afterward, he smiled. "It's all right." Many members of the princess had pledged to die for her. They could risk their lives in many dangers. However, some of them have disappeared inexplicably, Ai Fu La muttered, throwing a glance towards the Amethyst Palace. Shi Yan's eyes changed as he was scared. When he bid farewell to Ka Tuo, the man had also advised him to be cautious with Ziyao. He told him that many of her escorts had disappeared for unknown reasons. He said that Ziyao was an extremely toxic character. Connected to what Ai Fu La had just told him, Shi Yin suddenly understood something as a flash of thought crossed his mind. "You should be careful." Ai Fu La didn't talk more. He nodded and waved his hand, then left. After his figure disappeared, Shi Yin used his soul consciousness to drive the Amethyst war chariot, turning into purple lightning and soaring into space. The Amethyst war chariot was made of amethyst, which was a special crystal that could be added with divine crystal energy. Each war chariot had been installed with divine crystals to supplement the energy. The war chariot flew up and accelerated towards the sky. As he was looking outside from the chariot, Shi Yin suddenly felt something. Standing in the war chariot, Shi Yin looked at the Amethyst Palace, especially at a central floor of the Amethyst Palace, where a tall, open platform was installed. The blonde Aogera's small figure was sitting neatly. A wisp of energy fluctuated from his soul altar. He suddenly lifted his head, glaring at Shi Yan's war chariot. Yan's eyes and his locked each other from a distance of around 10,000 meters. Swoosh! It felt like a flame blooming in the void, bringing up a sharp, hostile aura. Yan beamed a faint smile, his face brutal and cold. Aogera sat firmly and slowly closed his eyes, his aura quiet and archaic. Hi guys. GOS will go premium this April 11th. I hope that you guys can keep supporting me, Smiley. My new website Sigma novel. Com just launched 4 new novels a few days ago. I hope that you guys can support my website also. By the way, if GOS can make it way back to top 20, I'll release 5 extra chapters. Top 15 to 8 extra chapters. Top 10 to 7 extra chapters each week in 2 weeks. Chapter 760, Convergence of the Moon's Brilliance. Chapter 760, Convergence of the Moon's Brilliance. The Amethyst war chariot flew in the sky like purple lightning, tearing the cloud sea to enter the cold and dark outer space. He had stayed in the glorious Amethyst star for nearly a month. Since Ziyao had left, he had to go into outer space the second time. Sitting indifferently in the war chariot, Yan watched the vast starry sea. His soul consciousness was blurry, as the thoughts in his mind started to scatter. He sat like that while his consciousness floated to somewhere. The Amethyst war chariot didn't require his soul energy to move. It was flying at lightning speed according to the set route. The glorious Amethyst star and the Purgatory star weren't too far away from each other. At this speed, it would take around half a month to reach the Purgatory star and join the training in the so-called extreme Purgatory field. Flying in the middle of the endless starry universe, he suddenly felt lonely. His tough mentality couldn't help but get softer. The raging flame star area was endlessly vast. In this universe, he was just an outsider who had no friends or family, nothing familiar, or a lover to yearn for. Everything about this place seemed to distance him. He was drifting alone in this star area. Instinctively, he recalled Bao Ao and Jieji. How are you guys doing? Those 2 experts of the demon clan had come here with him to save their clan and make it stronger. They had given up everything to enter outer space in the hope of finding a solution. At this moment, he'd found the solution for the energy shortage issue of the Grace mainland. However, he didn't know whether Bao Ao and Jieji were still alive or not. He had run away discreetly with Fergie. Since Bao Ao and Jieji had to stay and be involved in the battle, they would possibly become sacrifices. Yan was begrudging. Looking at the stars in the sky, he forced a smile. Don't blame me. Even if I stayed, I would be of no help. Whether you are alive or not, when I get back to the Grace mainland, I will give the demon clan a place to live and grow. I will bring them out of the Grace mainland. He had never forgotten the reason he left his homeland. For his family, his friends, and his people in the Grace mainland, he had to hurry up to find a safe life star in the raging flame star area and bring his people there. The glorious Amethyst star was a good place, but the premise was that he had to solve the hidden trouble named Aogera. A cold smile hung on the corner of his mouth. Yan pondered for a while and then touched his glabella. A soul thought run directly to the heaven flame tier in his soul altar, targeting the vermilion bird true flame. How long does it take from our homeland to the raging flame star area? Oh, I mean, when we use the Amethyst war chariot. Give me an exact number. Ah, the vermilion bird true flame was startled. It was anxious for a while before replying. It will take a long time, at least more than 10 years. When I left my homeland and followed the aura of the vermilion bird, running to this place, it took me more than 100 years. If this war chariot runs at its max speed, it will take around 20 years to return to our homeland. But it's in the case everything goes smoothly. Yan's eyes shrank. Such a long time? At least 20 years, the vermilion bird true flame affirmed. If you have bad luck, it would take 100 years. It's normal though. Why do you say so? From our homeland to the raging flame star area, we need to cross so many cold and isolated star areas. Those star areas have no living beings or life stars. They've been drained long ago. However, formidable dangers are hiding there. Take one step wrong, and your soul will be shattered. Even though I'm in the soul form, I had encountered so many perilous events along the way. If you use this Amethyst war chariot, when you enter a perilous area, your chariot will explode. And you will be destroyed by the tremendous power of outer space. Shi Yan's brows slammed together tightly. He knew the vermilion bird True Flame didn't fabricate things. Since he had been in the raging flame star area, he had a precise perception of the common dangers that could be seen in outer space. He knew there would be many hazardous places like the solar star exploding fragment field, and, to make it worse, those places were situated on the main routes. People had to cross them to reach their destination. If they were careless for even a moment, the dangers in those areas would crush their soul altar instantly. He suddenly quieted down, not knowing whether he should laugh or cry, as the distance to his homeland seemed to be out of reach. The plan he had seemed impossible for now. If you want to go back, you can use a very simple way. You don't need to travel all the way. The Nine Serenities' soul-devouring flame sent him its thought from his sea of consciousness. Among the heaven flames, the Nine Serenities' soul-devouring flame didn't have the highest level, but it was ranked the third, which spoke for the fact of how mighty it used to be. In most cases, his perception of the situation was much better than the other flames. Shi Yan's eyes brightened a little bit. Which simple method do you mention? If your understanding of space power can reach a profound realm, you can make a space bridge that connects your homeland and where you are. It's like a space tunnel. The Nine Serenities' soul-devouring flame regarded him. As long as you can sense that area and you know the general location, with a better understanding of space power, you can cross layers of spaces. It's just like when you built the teleport formation. You can connect the Grace mainland and the raging flamestar area directly. Shi Yan was struck, as light shot out from his eyes in amazement. Yeah. The Nine Serenities' soul-devouring flame had given him a simple solution, and it was the most likely to be successful. Space power was one of the most magical powers Upanishad in this era. People who cultivated this power Upanishad would face no difficulty with space connection. However, the preconditions were that his perception of space power Upanishad should reach a profound realm, and his competence should be formidable. Shi Yan considered this possibility for a while, and then cracked a smile. The most difficult problem that had troubled him seemed to be solved easily. He calmed down, while the Amethyst war chariot continued moving like a wild thunderbolt. On this day, as he was trying to perceive the mysteries of space power with his eyes closed, he suddenly woke up, his face astounded. A massive moon star appeared in front of him. The moonlight was radiating shiningly like running water diverging in so many streams, entering outer space and illuminating the life stars around it. It was one of the moons he had seen when he was in the glorious Amethyst star. Together with 2 other moons in the dark firmament divine nation, it brought light to 11 life stars. Its moonlight was bright and pure, keeping those life stars from the perpetual darkness. They would immerse in the clear but cold moonlight forever. The moon in his eyes was round and big, as if it had filled both of his eyes. He was approaching the closest moon to him. As he was getting close to the halo of that moon, he felt so refreshed and comfortable, as if a stream of cool river water was pouring on his head, chilling his entire body. He almost shouted with delight, as he felt so good. Stretching both his arms, Shi Yan closed his eyes, starting to concentrate his thought to create a strong bond with his soul altar, which would help him gather more moonlight. Both the solar star and the moon star were part of the immense sea of stars. To the star power Upanishad, understanding the moon and the sun was required for advancing further. In the solar star exploding fragment field, he had used the sun's original essence to gain his own knowledge of how the solar star was formed and evolved. That was why he could collect the flaming solar energy and control the meteorites in the solar star exploding fragment field, which helped him trouble the space pirates, whose realms were much higher than his. Since the sun was a part of stars in the sky, this encounter was a motivation for him to ascend his star power Upanishad. Likewise, the shining moon was a part of the stars as well. The perception of the formation and development of the moon, along with the varieties of the moon power, were a part of the knowledge of the star power Upanishad. Shi Yan stayed still on the Amethyst war chariot. His soul altar slightly trembled, as the seal of star power Upanishad was stimulated. Shi Yan closed his eyes, relaxing his whole body to immerse in the water-like moonlight. He calmed his mind to learn and feel the clear but cold moonlight. He could realize how the energy was changing on that moon. In his heart, his sea of consciousness, and his soul altar, an image of the moon appeared like its reflection in water. It floated while releasing the faint moon energy. His aura became deep and seemingly everlasting. There was also a feeble beam of moonlight in his aura. Gradually, the moonlight creeping on his body seemed to turn into real water, magically seeping into his body through his pores. An immense white halo appeared on his body, looking inexplicable and magnificent. In this isolated outer space, under the shining moon, an amethyst war chariot hovered still like a massive purple crystal. A man with stretched arms stood in the war chariot, as if he wanted to hug the shining moon. His face was passionate, as if he were possessed. Only the faint moon aura was seeping out of his body little by little. Time seemed to stop at this moment. Under the bright moon, it looked a little bit strange. More than 10 1,000 meters long battleships made of bizarre white bones lined up in a spear formation, flying slowly by the moon. Warriors with tremendous power guarded on each battleship. Many warriors were moving back and forth on the battleships. They were talking and laughing with each other. Some were gambling or throwing their leftovers into outer space, making this place their garbage dump. Many warriors on the battleships noticed Shi Yan's weird posture under the moonlight. They mocked and laughed at him with disdainful eyes. No one paid him any attention. The battleship slowly came close to the Amethyst war chariot, reaching 10,000 meters away. Shortly, it was unknown why, but Shi Yan's Amethyst battleship suddenly rippled with waves of purple light. Those waves carried sharp blue spots which expanded slowly. The feeble energy aura amplified billions of times in just a blink. A cold, brutal female voice arose from the leading battleships. Move away from that Amethyst war chariot. Quickly. It's the dark magnetic, deadly explosion. Damn it. Her shout echoed to every battleship. The experts on all the battleships paled as if they had met a spooky ghost. They immediately urged their battleship to stay away from Shi Yan's Amethyst war chariot. What she called dark magnetic deadly explosion seemed to come from Shi Yan's Amethyst war chariot. Chapter 761. Dark Magnetic Deadly Explosion. Chapter 761. Dark Magnetic Deadly Explosion. Shi Yan suddenly woke up as a terrible tremor was emitted from his Amethyst war chariot. Instantly, the Amethyst chariot cracked with so many fine slits, while a tremendously destructive power was about to burst off. This terrifying energy was much fiercer than the volcano crystal nucleus Ziyao had used. It seemed to be able to blow off an entire life star. Inexplicably evil. As though he had encountered spooky ghosts, Shi Yan didn't have any time to think. Space power flew out of his soul altar, while the energy in his entire body was boosted to the acme instantly. Shi Yan's space power Upanishad and the energy of outer space had created a marvelous resonance. At this moment, multiple fine space slits appeared near him, with 5 colored lights sticking out. Waves of space energy rippled in front of his eyes. He had urged all energies in his body, which made his body shrivel in just a blink. The third sky of Rampage Realm was activated. His negative energy was urged, as Shi Yan recklessly stormed into layers of space splits. He wildly dashed towards the moon star in front of him. The earth-shaking energy tremor under his feet had been stimulated to the max. The explosion that could tear the whole sky burst off abruptly. In that instance, dazzling light beams shot out everywhere like the sharpest sabers. The shockwave created by the explosion moved at a shockingly fast speed. Even Shi Yan, who had crossed the space slits, saw them getting shattered. A space energy flood that naked eye could see furiously spurted out of the slits. Light bloomed, as if the sun or the moon was exploding. Billions of fierce light beams smashed the space slits behind him into so many fragments. That exploding energy was rumblingly bombarding behind his back. Shortly, his back was torn into a mess, his dark gold bones getting exposed. Shi Yan tried his best to urge the energy in his entire body. His soul altar was still spinning fast as he shot towards the moon star like a fading shadow. The furious energy had burst off his back, waist, and nape. His tenacious body couldn't resist the mighty power of the shockwave. His soul was trembling, as he was intensely exhausted. He was put in a coma shortly, with the darkness swallowing his mind. Under the moon star, the intimidating energy expanded like a vast sea, while light beams swept through the entire area. The battleships couldn't endure this brutal, formidable energy. The battleship closest to the core of the explosion was fragmented in just a blink of an eye. Warriors from different races who were gambling and drinking on the battleship were turned into powder immediately, leaving nothing. Even experts at King God Realm with god bodies and god domain couldn't escape the shockwaves. Although their god bodies were tougher than rock or iron, they were still bleeding badly. Blocks of flesh were peeled off their bones, turning them into bloody skeletons. Only their soul altar could escape in that instant. A brutal, wild shout arose from the leading battleship as a woman in black clothes appeared in the center of the explosion. She had an appealing body, accompanied by a frighteningly scarred face. Waves of crystal-like energy rippled from her god domain, strongly changing the principles of heaven and earth, creating a flood current which guided the energy generated from the explosion to one side. With a somber face, she continually urged her supernatural powers, pulling the tremendous energy created by the explosion towards the immense darkness. The woman in black with a scarred face shivered in anger. She looked as ferocious as a wailing ghost, with indignation sparkling in her eyes. Under her power, the furious energy flood generated from the dark magnetic deadly explosion was pushed aside, saving the other battleships from this fatal attack. Only the first exploded battleship was now a total ruin. Besides the bloody skeletons in that area, soul altars were floating here and there, as a resentful aura shot out from them. The impact of the dark magnetic deadly explosion had paled the warriors who were lucky enough to not get involved in this. They gritted their teeth with blood-red eyes, looking at the moon star like a pack of wolves. This formidable explosion had smashed a 1,000 meters long battleship. Several hundred warriors at different levels were killed. Around 20 King God Realm experts had lost their god bodies, leaving only their soul altars. Many materials carried on that ship were now mere powder, becoming a part of the space debris wandering in the dark universe. The smell of blood permeated the area, which was so nauseating. Although they had lost their god bodies, their soul altars were all right. Their god souls hissed and cried mournfully like wailing ghosts. All of a sudden, they flew rapidly towards the moon star. The woman in black was still floating in the center of the explosion. Her dark green eyes were as cold as sabers. A wild, furious, murderous aura shot out from her, sending shivers down the other warriors' spines. The woman wore a cold visage. Each scar on her face looked like a small snake crawling under her skin. A flame of anger seemed to be ignited in her heart, as she looked ready to erupt at any minute like a volcano. "Ma'am," a handsome third sky of King God Realm expert in heavy dark iron armor kneeled down in the void. That man was sitting in an amethyst war chariot. The woman in black shouted ruthlessly like demons hissing and crying in hell. Her voice pierced people's eardrums. "I want him alive," she roared through her gritted teeth. The good-looking man in black iron armor had a heavy smell of blood about him, as if he had been soaked in the sea of blood for years. His armor had many bloodstains as well. He nodded, then shot out like a bloody light, heading towards the shining moon without saying anything. On the barren moon, the ground was silver, like some kind of metal, shining with a magical halo. Shi Yin, with his torn flesh body, had almost turned into a bloody skeleton. His vessels and tendons were all broken, and some of his dark gold bones were also cracked. If it were a normal person, he would have died immediately. However, his vitality was still there as he was lying quietly on the icy cold metal ground. His eyes were blurry while he was bearing the utmost pain to adjust his body's condition. The amethyst war chariot suddenly exploded, creating the shockwave that could even crush a small-sized life star. Such a powerful explosion was something he had never seen before. Also, he had never thought that an explosion could reach such a level. If he hadn't known the space power Upanishad, and he hadn't urged all of his energy, which even hurt his soul to create the space slit, he would have turned into dust by now. However, even if he had escaped rapidly, his body was almost crushed under the shockwave of that explosion. His soul altar was also damaged badly. At this moment, his consciousness was blurred, and he couldn't even rebuild his thoughts. While he was still muddling and couldn't respond, he had fallen into that furious energy impact. Shadows of ghosts roaring in the soul altar crossed the sea of cold moonlight, appearing in his view. Those ghost shadows were the god souls of the warriors who had lost their god bodies. They were riding their soul altars as if they were riding horses, appearing one by one in his view. The god souls of the warriors acted as if someone had killed their parents. They were extremely resentful as they showed themselves one by one. The soul altar spun, as they were about to urge the god domain to bombard him. Shi Yin was frightened. A hunky man wearing heavy black iron armor suddenly intervened, shouting, "Our boss wants him alive." A stream of dark energy was fired from his arms. Just like a gloomy long river descending from the sky, it covered Shi Yan's bloody body entirely. Under that gloomy energy's effect, Shi Yin was lifted, without any room to wiggle. Even his immortal martial spirit stopped healing his flesh and bones. Soon, he was brought to that man. The god souls sat neatly on their soul altars, looking at him just like a pack of hungry wolves. They hated that they could gnaw at his bones, crush him, and swallow him wholly. Under the binding of that dark river, Shi Yin couldn't move at all. He was forcefully dragged out of the moon star and brought to the affected area of the previous explosion. Although his body's functions were all damaged, Shi Yin could see fragments of the battleship, along with pieces of bones and blood floating around. He could even smell the thick scent of blood. Flows of energy that naked eyes couldn't see quietly surged and seeped into his body quietly. Those were the beams of essence chi of the warriors who got crushed to death in that explosion. His mysterious martial spirit was taking them and using a method that no one could detect. The energy was absorbed into his body, filling his acupuncture points with negative energy. The brutal, desperate, and resentful auras in this area had become so sharp and clear that they were able to affect people's mind. As he floated in the dark river, his acupuncture points automatically attracted the remnants of the energy, which made him understand their feelings before they died. They were scared and desperate. They missed this world when they were about to die. And they were extremely indignant. Shi Yin squeezed a forced smile inwardly. He looked at his body, which was bleeding badly. At this moment, he couldn't say anything. Not died yet, good. Very good. A savage female voice echoed not too far from him. In the next moment, the woman in black appeared in his view. This woman grabbed something in the void, and a flow of mysterious energy intruded Shi Yan's head. His soul altar didn't listen to him anymore. It trembled and flew out of his head, floating alone above his mutilated body. He had so many wounds that went deep to the bones. Broken bones were stuck into his internal organs, while his tendons and vessels were cut. After his god's soul skimmed over his body, the damages he had were reflected clearly in his soul. Shi Yin couldn't help but beam a wry smile. His god's soul sent him a distressed feeling. He gradually calmed down when his soul altar was still moving. At the first glance itself, his god soul was shaken on seeing the woman's appearance. He thought he had seen a wailing ghost from hell, making him feel uncomfortable. The woman in black forcefully dragged his soul altar out of his head, her eyes focused on it. Suddenly, she exhaled in surprise for a second. Then, she shouted abruptly, "All of you get out of here. Now." Many resentful warriors wanted to storm over. As they hadn't had time to check Shi Yan's soul altar, her shout made their soul tremble. They all hastened to flee away. There was no one near her and Shi Yan. No experts dared to come close. This woman was clearly the commander of those battleships. The dark green eyes of the woman in black sparkled with a strange light while they were gazing at Shi Yan's soul altar, astounded. Chapter 762, Scarlet Mark. Chapter 762, Scarlet Mark. Shi Yan's soul altar was apparently different from the others. His soul altar also had 3 tiers. However, the second tier was divided into 3 sections. Star, space, and death and life power Upanishads were circulating in one section, while the other section held several heaven flames, which had formed a real shape. The last section was a dark place that looked like a black hole. No aura or energy fluctuation was detected there, giving people an inexplicably mysterious feeling. Shi Yan's god soul was floating above the soul altar. At this moment, his god soul had turned into a hollow figure of himself. A miniature version of him, around 10 times smaller, was sitting neatly like a gloomy shadow on the soul altar of powers Upanishad, heaven flames, and something mysterious. The shadow of his god soul was as faint as a ghost. A magical mark appeared in its glabella. It was a scarlet mark created by 5 clusters of blood clouds. This mark used to appear right at his glabella. When he had condensed the mysterious section of the soul altar, that blood cloud mark, the inner world 5 devils, and the soul-gathering pearl had fused into one, as the mark disappeared from his glabella. Together, they created the mysterious section in his soul altar. Turned out that the mark had never disappeared, but imprinted in his god soul as the prominent mark on his god soul's forehead. 5 clusters of blood clouds arrayed in a pentagon, which looked like an evil, peculiar sea of blood, portrayed deep in his god soul. What the woman in black was gazing at was the scarlet mark on Shi Yan's god soul. Her dark green eyes showed a complicated emotion as she was immersing in some perplexing memories. Shi Yan didn't dare to act rashly. He could feel an energy aura from this woman which made his soul feel empty. He believed that if she wanted to kill him, it would be like a piece of cake. Shi Yan didn't know of the mark's existence on the forehead of his god soul, or the fact that the woman in black was gazing at that scarlet mark. After a while, the mysterious woman in black seemed to wake up. She looked at him strangely. "Where are you from?" Shi Yan was surprised. He was baffled for a while before sending his soul thought, "Can I return to my body first? Do you think you can use your body again?" The woman in black curled her lips, her face mocking. "Even if it's the god body of a king god realm warrior, with such damages, it will never be recovered fully. Can you do that?" Yes, Shi Yan sent his soul thought. His soul consciousness flickered. Shi Yan found that the force subduing his soul altar had retreated like the low tide. He gained control of his soul altar again. The soul altar floated and turned into a bunch of lights, disappearing into his body. Shi Yan opened his eyes, feeling the utmost pain in his body. He lied on his one side in the void, floating and trying to lift his head to look at the woman in black. He squeezed a forced smile. "I didn't want to hurt you guys." Nodding her head, the woman in black regarded him indifferently. "I can see that. You know nothing. The other wanted to make you a sacrificial pawn. That person didn't want to spare your life." Shi Yan's eyes were cold, as rage was rolling in his heart. He could confirm that the one who had touched this amethyst war chariot could estimate precisely that he would stop by the moon star. Also, that one knew the woman in black would pass by this area. That stealthy person had installed something terrible in his war chariot and triggered it. That person's purpose was to kill him and damage that woman's battleships at the same time. This was absolutely a big wild scheme. Someone was having so many plans to set him up and that woman in black. First, if it happened as what the other had planned, the woman in black was still calm. If the dark magnetic deadly explosion had completely burst off, you would have died. Nothing could have been left remaining. Some of my battleships would be crushed, and I would have some big trouble. Since you've come using the Amethyst war chariot, the chariot of Princess Ziyao, I would pour this debt on Ziyao, making her pay a big price for it." Shi Yan nodded, but his neck was torn painfully. "Yeah, someone wants to trigger the grudge between you and Princess Ziyao, making you and her stand on the opposite sides, which would make you take revenge on her." "Who is that?" The woman in black mumbled, then asked all of a sudden, "Who are you? Where are you from? How do you relate to Ziyao? Why did you come here?" The woman in black seemed to be concerned about Shi Yan's identity more. A gleam of surprise crossed her green eyes. "Ah, Shi Yin was bewildered. He arranged his thoughts and then answered. I'm from a low-level continent. I've been a member of Princess Ziyao's cortege not for a long time. I'm holding the Purgatory token Princess granted me. I'm going to the extreme Purgatory field to train myself. My name is Shi Yin. A low-level continent? A strange light sparkled from her eyes. Are you sure? I'm sure. Shi Yin nodded. In my continent, the strongest warriors are only at the true God realm. Before, I came to the Raging Flame Star area. I had never left my continent. As I've gotten here, I got to know so many mysteries of the vast universe. The woman in black looked at him for a while but didn't say anything. After a long time of staying quiet, she groaned something in her throat. Shi Yin couldn't hear it. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to see this either. Shi Yin tried to move his limbs in pain. He suddenly felt his body recovery starting again. His broken tendons and vessels slightly moved, as they were about to be connected. The woman in black got lost in her thoughts, not paying attention to his body condition. After a while, she spoke up again. Who do you suspect? A man called Ao Guerra. I heard he's Ao Gu Duo's nephew. Ao Gu Duo favors him a lot. The Purgatory token in my hand was supposed to be his. Perhaps he has a grudge because of it. He wants to kill me, Shi Yin answered without any hesitation. This is his assumption, and he believed it was the truth. He asked himself who he had provoked in the glorious Amethyst star. He didn't feel wicked intentions from anybody else but Ao Guerra. Ao Guerra, Ao Gu Duo's nephew. The woman in black mumbled. Her dark green eyes sparkled as she harumphed coldly. This kid doesn't treasure his life. Shi Yin was scared. He could feel the brutal, murderous intentions of this woman. Her murderous thought seemed to be as real as a fire that could burn everything. He suddenly realized that Ao Guerra had caused a big trouble. You must have had a marvelous encounter, right? The woman in black pondered for a while and then asked suddenly, Your god soul has a scarlet mark on the glabella. Where did you get that magical mark? Her eyes became evilly sharp, as if Shi Yin had to give her a proper answer, or she would kill him brutally. She would never give him the second chance. Shi Yin was baffled. After a while, he condensed a beam of soul consciousness and found the mark, which had disappeared before, on his glabella. However, this strange mark faded, and was about to disappear after the soul altar returned to the sea of consciousness. I got it in our continent. Because of my special cultivating method, I didn't know I had it. Until now, I don't even know what it is. I don't know what it can do and what it represents. Pausing for a while, he looked at the woman in black without blinking. He vaguely realized that the reason why this woman hadn't killed him yet could be because of the mark. He should try to ask for more information. The woman in black didn't answer. She still gazed at him, as if she wanted to detect whether he was lying to her or not. Shi Yin didn't dare to look around. He contemplated while looking at her, but he didn't say anything. After a while, the woman snorted. You're lucky today. Afterward, she didn't pay attention to Shi Yin anymore, flying away suddenly. When she approached her subordinates, she shouted, He's going to the extreme Purgatory field. You take him with us. Put him in prison. The buff man at the third sky of King God Realm in heavy dark armor slightly changed his visage. Ma'am, he almost destroyed us all. The woman in black frowned. The husky man in black armor shut his mouth. He flew over and dragged Shi Yin with him into the leading bone battleship. He threw him into a dark cell, speaking ruthlessly. Kid, although I don't know why my boss didn't torture you to death, you won't live for long. As soon as my boss changes her mind, I will make you taste all kinds of extreme tortures in this world. I will take revenge for my brothers. This cell had no light, so it was completely dark, such that Shi Yin couldn't even see his own fingers. The cell was protected by a fierce energy magnetic field. It looked like if Shi Yin touched it, it would blow him off instantly. Hey, can I ask something? Who are you guys? Shi Yin asked while frowning in the dark cell. Bloody Legion of Mam Leona. The man in black armor harumphed. He disappeared shortly, leaving no other words. Shi Yin lay defenselessly in the dark cell. His face changed dramatically as a respectful feeling arose in his heart. Bloody Legion, Ma'am Leona. He knew the other's identity now. The Dark Firmament Divine Nation had 5 great feudal vassals ruling different areas. They were quite powerful, as they were the extreme 5 under Du Tianji. The 5 great feudal vassals were almighty, expanding the territory of the Dark Firmament Divine Nation. They were the legends, the formidable existences at the original God realm. Only one woman stayed in that group of 5, and the Blood Legion was under her command. In the raging Flame Star area, they had caused so many bloody cases. Compared to Bloody Slaughterer Ka Tuo, they were much more savage. They had destroyed so many life stars. The evil reputation of this woman echoed around the raging Flame Star area. Even the Underworld League and the 9-Star Chamber of Commerce didn't dare to fight face-to-face with her. Du Tianji trusted her a lot. She had more of his favors than the other princes and princesses. She was a bloody saber of the Dark Firmament Divine Nation, which could slaughter everywhere. This woman was called Leona, the Bloody Night Brutal Devil, female butcher, the leader of the 5 great feudal vassals. Chapter 763, Demon Blood Molds the Body. Chapter 763, Demon Blood Molds the Body. In the dark cell where Shi Yin couldn't even see his own fingers, he was lying still, relaxing his soul to sense the changes of his body. A drop of scarlet, immortal demon blood broke inside his vessel. A blood-red halo expanded, turning into a magical recovery energy that flooded his bones, tendons, and flesh. The speedy recovery of the immortal rebirth secret depended both on the immortal martial spirit and the immortal demon blood. The more demon blood he had, the faster his recovery could be. More than 10 drops of immortal demon blood turned into a pure fountain of recovery energy, murmuring in his entire body like his blood. Wherever the immortal demon blood flowed by, his broken tendons and vessels received an enormous vitality, growing back vigorously. Each of his tendons was many times tougher than cattle tendons, moving slowly and rhythmically. A bloody light shimmered at the cut section and turned viscous, connecting the vessels and tendons. His fragmented bones grew back under the effect of the immortal demon blood, creating a thick layer of hard bones. After that, his bones could gather the energy from his blood and flesh, and the pure energy from the essence chi ancient tree to work on the bone layers, making it tough like iron miraculously. Each block of muscles in his body was covered in a blood-red liquid, which was full of vitality. His muscles were growing vigorously. Lying on the ground, he didn't think about anything as he relaxed his mind and soul, just letting the immortal demon blood work to restore his body. If anyone saw him at this moment, they would find that he was covered in a shimmering blood halo. Veins and tendons in his entire body were shivering, while cracking sounds were echoing from his bones. It looked like his blood and flesh were filled with air. Every cell of his was revived. The pain and fatigue he felt during the recovery process by the immortal demon blood and the immortal rebirth secret faded away. After an unknown period, Shi Yin gradually woke up, feeling so weak. All of a sudden, he paled. However, not long after that, his eyes lit up as he cracked a bizarre smile in the dark. The ruthless power of the dark magnetic deadly explosion had crushed one of Leona's battleships entirely. Several hundred warriors died on the spot, including at least 10 King God Realm experts. Since they hadn't escaped, their bodies were destroyed, leaving only their soul altars. After Leona's guard had dragged him to the center of the explosion, the essence chi of the dead warriors had flooded his acupuncture points while he was talking to her. The way those flows of energy had been gathered and poured into his body was mysteriously discreet. Even Leona, an expert at the original God realm, the leading expert among the 5 great feudal vassals of the Dark Firmament Divine Nation, couldn't detect any anomaly. She didn't know what he had gotten in his bloody pathetic situation. Abundant energy rolled torrentially in his acupuncture points. Using his soul consciousness to check, Shi Yin could see the mysterious vortexes wildly spinning in his acupuncture points. Amazing changes were happening in each of his acupuncture points, as the vortexes were rotating rapidly to extract the negative energy. From the center of the vortexes, bits of mysterious energy would appear continually. Once formed, beams of mysterious energy from the vortexes would fly out and become the source of greatly useful energy for his whole body. Each of his 720 acupuncture points in his body seemed to turn into a mysterious world. They were filtering the essence chi of the dead and turning it into his mysterious but marvelous energy. He lied on the ground still. However, he could feel the earth-shaking changes in his acupuncture points. It was like each of those tiny worlds had become the extension of his consciousness, a new world his soul could control. 720 new worlds hidden in his acupuncture points had the mysterious power to refill all of his energy. The negative energy generated during the filtration process had flooded the acupuncture points and expanded them continually. As his soul consciousness was moving in his acupuncture points, he seemed to be having some hallucination. He had become the only lord of 720 bizarre worlds in his acupuncture points. He could hold everything in his hand. He even felt that the mysterious mini-worlds in his acupuncture points seemed to be real. They all were waiting for him to explore, feel, and harvest the mysteries they carried. The dense negative mood rippled in the lake in his heart, generating brutal, desperate, fearful, bloodthirsty, and resentful feelings. The negative moods were like a dark abyss that could drag his soul into it, pushing him into insanity. Since he had experience when this happened, he immediately held his breath and kept his mind from overthinking, maintaining a quiet and pure soul altar. The icy cold air of the ice-cold flame changed in his thought. It quietly expanded, turning into a bright silver cold air that enveloped his god soul. The extremely cold aura stormed into his god soul. His consciousness that was trembling due to the negative mood calmed down gradually. All of the vicious thoughts seemed to be frozen, preventing him from entering bedevilment. His sea of consciousness seethed as it was supplemented. Flows of soul consciousness got longer and purer thanks to the heaven flame. Shi Yan's god soul trembled, as his soul altar spun like a windmill and accelerated steadily. It seemed like death and life, space, and star power Upanishads in his power Upanishad tier had been trimmed and separated clearly. At the same time, a magical energy fluctuation expanded from this tier, making a marvelous connection with the ripples in his sea of consciousness. His soul was baffled, as he suddenly seemed to have a deep perception. It seemed the cold moonlight of that moon star had connected the sun original essence, the same way when he was in the solar star exploding fragment field. At this moment, he didn't even recognize himself. His god soul seemed to have turned into a wandering ghost in the starry sky, taking a trip around to sense the heaven and earth energy and the basis of different power Upanishads in the world. Under this unconscious condition, his shattered body recovered at speed naked eyes could see. Tendons and veins in his body were moving like worms. They wiggled and connected with each other, creating a complex drawing of vessels in his body. Blocks of flesh and each of his muscles were filled with the mysterious energy. With the resonance of the muscles, his body bulged into a stocky look. He gradually became as tough as the most rigid stone and iron. Shi Yan could feel a bursting power in his body. Bones in his entire body echoed cracking sounds as pungent, viscous substances oozed out of his pores. Those were the contaminants his immortal demon blood had extracted from his body. When a warrior ascended, he would take in a large amount of heaven and earth energy. Energy from the divine crystals, the broken essence chi ancient tree of the dead, and pellets all had the magical energy that was useful to the flesh body. However, no matter what energy it wasn't really clean, as it always contained dregs. When a warrior refined his body, he must discharge these dregs out to purify his body. That was how he could facilitate the energies to move faster in his vessels. Discharging the contaminants in the body was something the warriors had to do regularly. At any stage of cultivation, as long as a warrior still practiced his martial path, taking in energy from heaven and earth or from pellets would always generate dregs and contaminants. Those dregs of energy would affect the flow of energy circulating in the body, which would create leaks. When the body wasn't clear enough, it wouldn't be tenacious, and external energies could seep into the body through these leaks. The main activity in quenching the body was to discharge the dregs and contaminants. When the immortal rebirth secret rebuilt his body, one of the fundamental effects was eliminating the dregs in his body. However, after each time of cleaning the body, new dregs would be generated when the warrior broke through the new realm or took in more energy. Hence, it would affect the circulation of energy in the body. Thus, after so many times of quenching the body, a warrior could make his body tougher and more tenacious. At the same time, discharging the dregs was also necessary. Those stinky viscous substances were the dregs of the body, a challenge to make his body more flexible and firmer. While he hadn't recognized it, the immortal demon blood and the immortal rebirth secret had worked together to wash his entire body. They reduced the leaks, which prevented the external energies from seeping through his body. Inside the dark cell, Shi Yin lied quietly. His soul felt empty, as he was falling in a magical condition of learning power Upanishads. His body had recovered and was in a marvelous quenching process. What had benefited both his soul and body was the mysterious energy overflowing from his acupuncture points. The mysterious energy filling his entire body had not only helped him recover his body, but also refined his blood and flesh like refining secret treasures. As his soul was resisting the negative moods, it became tranquil, using the Upanishad perception to avoid falling into bedevilment. However, his soul hadn't been benefited much compared to the previous time. After fighting with Ein's spirit of the Dark Clan, a new section that looked like the black hole in his soul altar had flown out and swallowed that man's soul altar, which made his soul altar sublimate. That flow of energy had similar effects as his mysterious martial spirit. The only difference between them was that the mysterious martial spirit absorbed the energy of the dead, which was the body's energy, while the black hole-like soul altar section aimed at the soul, devouring them to create the energy which sublimated his soul altar. Although they were two different methods, they both brought him great benefits, especially to sublimate his soul altar, providing a major help to the power Upanishads and heaven flames. At the same time, his god soul also received the pure energy. Staying in this completely dark cell, Shi Yin wasn't disturbed, and nobody knew what he was doing. At this moment, he was temporarily forgotten. Even Shi Yin's mind was empty. He hadn't recognized the changes happening in his body. At this moment, a shadow that blended with the darkness appeared next to him in the cell. A pair of dark green eyes gazed at him silently. She didn't say anything, just stood as if she were a part of the dark, the soul of darkness. Chapter 764. The Dawn of Blood Changing. Chapter 764. The Dawn of Blood Changing. A series of fierce explosions reverberated. The battleship trembled as if it had halted somewhere. Then, another rumbling explosion resounded. Shi Yin woke up all of a sudden in his dark cell, his eyes shining like bright stars. His body had recovered fully. No wound could be found on his bones, tendons, and flesh. Furthermore, his body had reached another level of tenaciousness. In the dark cell, he couldn't see his body, so he could only use the soul consciousness to sense. Closing his eyes, Shi Yin observed quietly, a grin forming on his face gradually. His grin then cracked into a loud, insane laughter, echoing in the cell. He felt that this body-quenching process had brought him unimaginable advantages. Thoughts flickered in his mind. His body was as tough as iron or great stone, that nothing could crush. He didn't know what the god body was like, but he thought that even if it were the god body of a king god realm expert, their unbreakable body would be only similar to his. However, what made him laugh insanely weren't only the changes in his body. There was also his essence chi ancient tree, and the new immortal demon blood he had just condensed. Experiencing the unexpected dark magnetic deadly explosion, he had been hurt severely. However, with the aid from his mysterious martial spirit, not only had Shi Yin recovered fully, but he had also gained big. His essence chi ancient tree was full. Each crystal branch was filled with pure energy, shining like jades. Each detail of the branches was made of pure essence chi, carrying the surging, torrential energy. He wasn't sure about his realm, but in this condition, he was sure that his essence chi had reached the peak of true God realm. In other words, his essence chi had reached a new height, which was enough to help him break through the new realm. And he had the immortal demon blood. Rebuilding the body had cost him 10 drops of immortal demon blood. He used to think that it was his loss this time. However, using his soul consciousness to check, he found that the immortal demon blood drops he now had were 50 drops of immortal demon blood. He had never seen this situation before. It seemed the essence chi from the dead had helped him tremendously. After it had filled his essence chi ancient tree, it helped him condense more immortal demon blood. In the Grace mainland, killing hundreds of Sky Realm or Spirit Realm warriors could only help him generate several drops of immortal demon blood. The essence chi emitted after the true God Realm and King God Realm warriors died was much more than the previous 2 realms. As a result, Shi Yin couldn't press down his excitement. When Bao Ao and Jieji told him that he could use the immortal demon blood to replace his own blood, Shi Yin thought it would be impossible. Today, he suddenly had an idea that since the Raging Flame Star area had so many true God Realm and King God Realm warriors, his blood-changing activity wouldn't be much of a problem. Using the immortal demon blood to replace his blood, he would reach a new height. As it was what Bao Ao and Jieji had shared with him, he believed the other 2 didn't just babble. As he was the man who bore the demon blood, he was clearer about its mysterious and mighty feature than the other 2. If he could fill his body with immortal demon blood one day, Shi Yin believed that he would have a tremendous transformation. Slowly sitting up, his eyes brightened. Shi Yin hesitated for a while, then shot out a drop of scarlet, immortal demon blood from his fingertip. A thought popped up in his mind. He sent his soul energy into that drop of immortal demon blood and urged it with his secret technique. A face of a man appeared in his god soul. It was Shi Yin. The immortal demon blood ignited. A magical energy fluctuation shot out from it, tore through space, and flew rapidly in outer space at an unimaginable speed. It seemed he had formed a connection with Shi Yin. However, this connection was vague, as if it had encountered many layers of hindrance. Not long after that, a drop of his immortal demon blood was burned completely, leaving no energy remaining. Shi Yin couldn't create the complete connection with Shi Yin or sense his great-grandfather in the Grace mainland. Shi Yin wasn't distressed. However, his eyes lit up as he laughed dryly. Of course, a drop of immortal demon blood couldn't cross the endless space through several star areas to reach the Grace mainland. What if it weren't just a drop of immortal demon blood? If he used more than 10 drops of immortal demon blood, would he be able to locate Shi Jin's location, his situation, or even create a soul connection with him? He grinned, confirming this assumption himself. Shi Yin thought that the 9 Serenity's soul-devouring flames suggestion was absolutely possible. Once his space power Upanishad reached a new realm, when he used the immortal demon blood to connect one of his relatives in the Grace mainland and verify their location, he could use his great power to create the space passage, which could bring his family and friends in the Grace mainland to the Raging Flame Star area. This would overturn the problem that had troubled the Grace mainland for so many years. Shortage of energy? The Raging Flame Star area had so many life stars, and any of them could help the warriors continue their cultivation. They could use the enormous natural energy to create their god bodies and break through to the King God realm. Also, they had different kinds of pellets and the source of power Upanishad inheritance. All of these could be the best chances for his relatives on the Grace mainland to enter a new height, becoming his solid support in the Raging Flame Star area. Perhaps, one day, they could be strong enough to be the rival of the 3 mighty forces in the Raging Flame Star area. Right when he was still laughing weirdly, a shout came from outside. "Get out!" A slit of light appeared in the dark where people couldn't see their own fingers as the door was opened. Shi Yin was bewildered for a while. He halted his stupid laughter and walked out, appearing in the vision of one of Leona's subordinates. When the hunky man wearing heavy dark armor turned around, he was stunned. His eyes reflected his disbelief. He gazed at Shi Yin without blinking. Your body." Shi Yin smiled, moving his wrists, which caused some cracking noise as he glared at the man. "What's up?" "OSH*T, you're a monster." The man mumbled, his face frightened. You can recover such severe damages. Even a king god realm warrior, if he got damaged like that, he would choose to leave the body, finding a host somewhere, or just be reborn. How could you recover? Of course, Shi Yin understood his uniqueness. He just smiled. I just had some good fortune. I also had divine medicines to treat the wounds. It's normal that I could recover. Divine medicines? The man was astounded. His eyes flared up for a while, then he nodded begrudgingly. Oh, it's a medicine like that indeed. It can recover the god body to the normal state. However, you are only at the true god realm. It's not normal, is it? Shi Yin just smiled and didn't talk more. The beefy man scrutinized him for a while, but couldn't find any possible reason. He then didn't talk more and just snorted. Madam wants to see you. I'm waiting for her order to kill you. I'll do it myself. She won't. Shi Yan's face was indifferent without a gleam of fear. If Madame Leona wanted to kill me, I couldn't have lived until this moment. You will be disappointed. I won't die, but instead will live vigorously. Shi Yan didn't know why he always felt that he and that female butcher shared something originally. It should be related to the scarlet mark in his god soul. Anyway, that butcher didn't explain anything, and Shi Yan couldn't ask her for more information, although he was kind of skeptical. The hunky man led him out of the prison. While walking, Shi Yan couldn't help but look at the dark doors on the two sides of the passage. Each of those big doors was carved with complex patterns and drawings, including flames, clouds, or water. Those patterns seemed to have some functions, just like barriers or restrictions to seal the world behind the door. He couldn't sense what was behind those dark doors. Relating to his situation, Shi Yan vaguely thought that each door of them was used to imprison someone. He pondered for a while and asked, "What is in there?" "What's in there?" The brawny man grinned fiendishly. "Prisoners of the Empire, space pirates, bandits, thieves, and insane serial killers, etc. They will be the grinding burrs of the extreme purgatory field. If you can join the extreme purgatory field, they will become your opponents." "What do you mean?" Shi Yan was surprised, asking for more. "Are they related to the extreme purgatory field? You hold the F*King Purgatory token, but you don't know what the extreme purgatory field is?" The beefy man's eyes were odd. "Are you even from the raging flamestar area? Too ignorant, kid." Shi Yan beamed a dry smile, but he didn't explain. The man had walked to the end of the passage. He waved, not wanting to discuss more. "We've arrived at the Purgatory Star. If Madam lets you live, you will join the extreme purgatory field. Then, you'll know what benefits you can receive." While talking, the man walked out. Shi Yan followed him closely. A dark light flashed as he appeared on the main deck of the bone battleship. This spooky green bone ship was quite strange, releasing a freezing blood aura. Hundreds of warriors were standing on the deck of the ship. Their auras were strong, but not hurried. A thick smell of blood emitted from those warriors, gathering into a blood flood current that couldn't be seen with naked eyes, twirling around their body. Shi Yan discolored. He had a feeling that he was swimming in the blood sea of hell. He felt so uncomfortable. Members of the Bloody Legion under Leona's commands were all insane butchers with bloodlust as their natural feature. They wandered around the raging flame star area, causing bloody instances that startled people on countless life stars. No one could count how many people they had killed till now. Those warriors had a bloodthirsty aura. Since they had killed so many people, their bloody murderous aura was so thick that it could affect the warriors' souls directly. Standing on the deck of the battleship, Shi Yan's soul was uneasy. He believed that someone with a weak mind would have his knees softened in this place. His realm would decrease dramatically, which would prevent him from generating the fighting will. Standing in front of those warriors was a figure in black. She stood still, looking into the far distance, as though she was waiting for something. "Madam's waiting for you." The man pointed forward. His back was upright as he stood like tough rock. His eyes looked at that woman in black with the hottest admiration and respect. In his eyes, that woman in black was his goddess. Shi Yan frowned, passing by each warrior that looked like a block of bloody rock, his eyes raking here and there. Chapter 765, Purgatory Star. Chapter 765, Purgatory Star. The sky here was pitch black, without any sun, moon, or stars. Black ink water seemed to hover thickly in the sky, hindering all kind of lights. The cold and isolated aura permeated everywhere. Further in their vision were mountains jutting up to the sky. However, they were carved and portrayed spookily. They looked as ferocious as the strong demon beasts in the dawn of the planet, which could shake people's souls. The ground was full of red blood. A bloodthirsty aura and the thick scent of blood invaded the whole land. Leona stood on the main deck, looking like a wailing ghost of this purgatory star. She seemed to be waiting for something. Shi Yin was discreetly careful. He sauntered to behind her, looking at her back and speaking respectfully. "Greetings, madam." Leona didn't turn around, still looking at the far area ahead of her. "How is your condition?" "I'm recovered fully. No damage. It's because of your grace." Shi Yin slightly bent his body, his eyes focusing on her. Standing near Leona were 3 other young warriors. One of them was at the second sky of King Godrealm, and the other 2 were at the first sky of King Godrealm. They all wore pitch-black clothes, which had a dark sun crest, the unique mark of Leona. The second sky of King Godrealm warrior was a dark clan female. Although her appearance wasn't that outstanding, her body was mesmerizingly appealing. At the same time, her aura was quite intimidating. The other 2 were young human males. From their similar appearances, they must be brothers. These 2 had a barrel-chested, muscular body, with haughty faces indicating they didn't want to be controlled. The reason why Shi Yin observed those 3 was neither because of their realms nor their special appearances. It was because all 3 of them wore a token on their waist, which had the drawing of a bloody crown, the Purgatory token. Apparently, these 3 were like him. They were going to join the extreme Purgatory field. When he observed these 3, they were also looking at him with a disdainful face. They obviously looked down on him. Especially the Dark Clan's woman, who pursed her lips while talking faintly. "Only at the true God realm. Trash. Once he gets into the extreme Purgatory field, he'll soon be killed." Leona snorted. Those 3 young people quieted down. Their eyes were somber, slightly bending their bodies as if they were waiting for her advice. "I don't know what you will do after you get in there. In short, the one who can kill the most must be one of you 3. Leona suddenly turned around. Her dark green eyes raked through the 3 young people. "If you lose my people, even if you can come out alive, I will kill you myself. I will destroy your clan too." These 3 people shut their mouths. They immediately kneeled down on one knee, stooping. No one dared to talk anymore. "This man will join the extreme Purgatory field as well. You guys pay attention to him." Leona pointed at Shi Yin and shouted her order. "In the extreme Purgatory field, if you encounter him, you can kill him. However, remember this, if he has to die, he must die in your hands. Whoever else dares touch him, skin them and draw their bones out for me. Confine their souls and torture them to death." The 3 nodded instantly. Their eyes looked at Shi Yin with a bloodthirsty visage. Shi Yin shuddered inwardly. His face was cold as he stooped and grinned fiendishly. "If you see Ao Gu Duo's men, don't show mercy. Kill them all. Especially Ao Gera. If you see him, bring his soul to me. I'll treat him myself," Leona shouted. The 2 were shaken as they got stirred up immediately. Their eyes became blood-red, full of fighting will. While Leona was talking, hissing sounds came from ahead of them. Not long afterward, 10 meters long war chariots appeared one by one in front of them. A handsome warrior in the leading war chariot pitched his voice. "Greetings, Madam Leona." Leona nodded, gazing at Shi Yin. She pulled something in the air, and a white bone war chariot flew over. She got in the chariot and talked to her warriors. "Get in." The 3 members of the Bloody Legion, who were going to join the extreme Purgatory field, got in the war chariot without saying a word. Leona frowned, sweeping her eyes over Shi Yin. Shi Yin nodded, his face indifferent. He walked to the war chariot as well. His view became wider after he got into the war chariot. He suddenly found that only this white-boned battleship appeared in the Purgatory star. The other ships had disappeared somewhere. Leona touched the void, and a beam of pitch-black light fell on the white-boned battleship under their feet. Prison cells suddenly flew out of the battleship, each cell covered with a dark shadow. Around 50 cells floated in the air, looking like small suns. Shi Yan's soul consciousness flickered. A gleam of fright flashed in his eyes as he looked at Leona. He suddenly recognized that at the moment Leona used her power and her god domain, her body was covered entirely in the darkness, as if she had disappeared completely. Dark domain. A beam of magical light crossed his brain like lightning. In the next moment, he vaguely got something. Dark Upanishad. It was the dark power Upanishad. Shi Yan was shaken. He suddenly released why he felt that he and Leona had something in common. Because the dark Upanishad the woman had was totally the same as the war devil in his ring. However, War Devil couldn't make the Dark Upanishad reach that status. Anyway, War Devil was just a puppet, a clone of Lao Luo. Since it didn't have a soul, it would never be able to touch the essence of the Dark Power Upanishad. Leona was different. She had reached the original God realm, so her perception and understanding of the Dark Upanishad wasn't something the War Devil could compare with. However, the attribute of their Power Upanishad and aura was the same. But one was endlessly intimidating, while the other was much weaker. "Welcome, Madame Leona." Warriors on the dark iron war chariot bent their bodies to greet her loudly. Leona nodded as the white-bone war chariot dashed forward rapidly. Around 50 clusters of dark light followed her like dark clouds. They were the cells controlled by her dark power. Apparently, those warriors were the receptionists. They led the way while Shi Yan and Leona were behind them. Shi Yan then saw ranges of thousands of meters tall mountains, which were cut into the shapes of ghosts and monsters. This group of rock ghosts and monsters looked ferocious, with an evil, bloody aura. They appeared under the bone chariot, zoomed out, and disappeared. All of a sudden, Shi Yan saw another battleship by a 3,000 meters tall mountain range. This one was made of platinum, shining dazzlingly in this dark purgatory star. "Seems Rochester's here." Leona glared at the platinum battleship, then shifted her look away, talking indifferently. "True. Sir Rochester arrived here the first. He's been idle here for half a month." The receptionist smiled, trying to earn her favor. "Besides Sir Rochester, Sir Carthew and Sir Delay have come. Until now, only Sir Aoguduo's still on the way." Shi Yan's eyes flared up strangely. Besides Leona, Aoguduo, and Delay, Rochester and Carthew were the other members of the 5 great feudal vassals of the Dark Firmament Divine Nation. The 5 great feudal vassals guarded 5 different areas. To expand the territory of the Dark Firmament Divine Nation, they engaged in bloody fights every day, building and expanding the endless Divine Nation. They were considered the 5 great pillars of the Divine Nation. Among the 5 great feudal vassals, Leona had the strongest force. Rank the second was Aoguduo's, followed by Rochester and Carthew. Delay, the one Shi Yan had met, was placed the last among the 5. His force was the weakest. The ranking of the 5 great feudal vassals didn't always stay the same. Depending on the land they could occupy and the merits of their subordinates, their rankings would be classified transparently. Rumors said that at the beginning Leona had been ranked the last. When she became a feudal vassal, she had received severe criticism, saying that she wasn't eligible. It was Du Jianji of the Dark Firmament Divine Nation who had supported her, giving her a chance to show her competence. Finally, she stood firmly on the last position among the feudal vassals. She didn't let Du Tianji down, making all who had criticized her shut their mouths. Shortly, after 100 years, she had used bloody brutal deeds to contribute to the Dark Firmament Divine Nation. She had expanded the Dark Firmament Divine Nation's territory. From the last position among the feudal vassals, she now topped them all. She became the never-ending legend of the Divine Nation. Today, she had used her attainment to gain fame. In the Divine Nation, no one dared to criticize or look down on her. Whenever they mentioned her, they would do it with admiration, respect, and fear. Shortly, a 10,000 meters tall mountain range situated on an area over hundreds of miles wide appeared. It looked like a savage beast crouched on the ground. The rough cliffs were as sharp as thick fangs. The aura bursting out of this area was intimidating and tyrannical. At first glance, it could shake people's hearts. Simple palaces built of blood-like rocks were present on the highest summit of this mountain range. The mountain was hollowed out with many pitch-black caves. Resentful, evil grunts, roars, and cries came out of those caves. After Leona came here, the dark domain on her body moved slightly. Floating cells behind her rolled into those caves like black rubber balls. Many warriors were waiting at the entrance of the caves to receive the prisoners from those cells. She didn't pay attention to those caves, just standing on the white bone war chariot while looking at the spacious square on the highest mountain. Some warriors were waiting there. Shi Yin followed her line of sight. As soon as he looked at the square, he spotted Delay and Deming. Besides them, there stood some other young people. Each of them had humongous auras, wearing the Purgatory token on their waists. Apparently, they were going to join the extreme training course in the extreme Purgatory field. Ha ha ha. Madam Leona, finally you're here. I've been waiting for you for so long. An extraordinarily handsome middle-aged man in luxurious clothes stepped out of the group, laughing happily. He looked somewhat similar to Du Feng. Leona didn't move. She just nodded, driving the white bone war chariot towards the square. That middle-aged man sighed. His eyes raked through 4 people standing behind Leona, asking skeptically, "Hey, it's not correct. Your Bloody Legion has only 3 quotas. Why do you have 1 extra?" This middle-aged man seemed to be one of the managers of the extreme Purgatory field. He understood the rules well, so he was astounded. "He isn't from my Bloody Legion," Leona snorted, pointing at Shi Yin. "He's Princess Ziyao's subordinate. I met him on the way here, so I just gave him a lift." Ziyao's subordinate? The old man became more astounded. Didn't they choose Ao Guerra from their internal meeting? How come they changed the participant all of a sudden? Weird. Chapter 766, Undercurrent. Chapter 766, Undercurrent. Not only was this middle-aged man surprised, besides Delay and Deming, most of the warriors here showed a bewildered face. All of a sudden, they all paid attention to Shi Yin. Ao Guerra has a good uncle. He doesn't need to worry about having a quota for the extreme Purgatory field. Ziyao spent her quota for another one to train the new elite force for the Divine Nation. What makes you surprised? Leona was calm, raking through those people on the mountain while speaking coldly. The middle-aged man beamed a faint smile and nodded. As long as he has the Purgatory token, he can join the extreme Purgatory field. It's the rule. Whoever will join, I don't actually care. Shi Yin, little buddy, long time no see. I didn't expect that we would meet again shortly. Delay suddenly stepped forward with his smiling face. Deming stood next to him. He contemplated for a while and then grinned, nodding at Shi Yin. Shi Yin frowned. His visage relaxed. He smiled at the two, as if they had had a good relationship. Delay, you know this boy? What's his background? A man wearing plain cotton garments with rough appearance asked loudly. I remember no one named Shi Yin in Ziyao's cortege. Hasn't he just followed Ziyao recently? After he said that, many people put on a strange visage. Especially Delay. He was uncomfortable. Of course, he wouldn't tell the others that his son got subdued by a stranger. He just smiled begrudgingly. When Ziyao passed by my place, she brought Shi Yin to be my guest for a few days. That's how I know him. Shi Yin. This little buddy isn't weak. Haha. Moreover, he's progressing rapidly. 2 years ago, when I met him, he was just at the 2nd sky of True God Realm. I didn't expect that when I meet him again, he would have reached the 3rd sky of True God Realm. It's Ziyao and our Empire's grace indeed. What Delay said was somehow serious. Not many warriors standing on this square had actually known Shi Yin and his secrets. Even Leona didn't know that Shi Yin could use the Soul Burial Ground. Many years ago, when that mysterious expert appeared in the Raging Flame Star area, he had shown an invincible power, making many life stars fall in misery. If they had ever heard about the legends of that expert, once they felt that Shi Yin had something to do with that one, of course, they would highly appreciate him. Delay thought that Shi Yin was quite lucky and excellent that he could go with Zi Yao and survive the solar star exploding fragment field. Delay admired Zi Yao, as she could have such a mysterious escort. Since he knew the hidden things, although he didn't like Shi Yin, he even hated him a lot, he didn't dare to underestimate this young man anymore. When people were watching Shi Yin, he was also eyeing them, discreetly putting up his guard. Standing next to Leona and Delay, the middle-aged manager of the extreme purgatory field in front of him was at the peak of King God realm. Since he looked much similar to Du Feng, Shi Yin guessed that this man perhaps was also a member of the royal family, Du Tianji's brother. And he noticed two other people almost right when he stepped on the ground. One of them was the rude middle-aged man in plain cotton garments. Since Shi Yin couldn't sense his cultivation base and aura, he should be the same as Leona and Delay, an expert at the original God realm. With his understanding of the 5 great feudal vassals, this man should be Rochester, who was ranked right behind Aogu Duo. He was also a brutal and combative character. The other one was young, good-looking, and coltish. His face was white, accompanied by a slender body. He should be one of the 5 feudal vassals, Carthu. He was also an original God realm expert. Among the 5 feudal vassals, he was titled White-Faced Bloody-Handed. Besides Leona, he was the youngest among the feudal vassals, and also a great legend of the dark firmament divine nation. Although he had earned fame and powers when he was still young, Carthu was born a humble kid on an ordinary life star. At the first time he had received the Power Upanishad in the Source of Power Upanishad inheritance, he had started to show his talents. Then, he enrolled in the military of the empire and started his life on the battlefields. His performance was so dazzling, which helped him earn the glory of being a feudal vassal. Carthu had the worst background among the 5. However, he had used his own power to reach the peak little by little. Eventually, he became a strong feudal vassal. Carthu just smiled tenderly from the beginning, his visage mild and gently just like a teacher who didn't give the others any dangerous feelings. They would instinctively relax in front of him and get charmed by his gentle aura. However, in the eyes of the other forces outside the dark firmament divine nation, he was truly a demon. He had swaggered for so many years in outer space, hunting down countless space pirates and marauders. Countless corpses of space pirates had built his foundation, making him stand firmly in the divine nation. Whenever they mentioned his name, space pirates would always be hostile. There was an unwritten saying space pirates shared with each other that whoever could kill Carthu would immediately become the only leader of the space pirates. However, until now, Carthu had still run amok around outer space, chasing and killing space pirates. He had robbed the pirates to collect a great deal of properties for the Empire. Wherever he passed by, space pirates would be petrified. Until now, he still lived his life casually, while the space pirates always shivered on seeing him. Marauding the marauders, his cruel deeds and ruthlessness weren't something ordinary people could think about and apply. Carthu just smiled and said nothing. However, his phoenix eyes, which looked like a beautiful woman's eyes, often glared at Leona with a strange gleam. Shi Yin observed for a while and felt weird. From the way Carthu looking at the other, he seemed to have some unclear feelings for Leona. It looked like he liked her a lot. Shi Yin was baffled. He couldn't help but turn around, his eyes gliding over the woman standing next to him. A beam of strange thought flashed in his eyes. This woman was a legend in the dark firmament divine nation, with bloody, brutal deeds. She was a noble person, though. However, her appearance wasn't any more beautiful than a wailing ghost. Did Carthu have a special fetish? Was she his type? Shi Yin couldn't understand. Aogu Duo hasn't arrived yet. We need to wait for him for several days more. He sent me a message saying that he would be here in 7 days max. Yeah, he said he got some stuff along the way here, which delayed him, the middle-aged man explained softly. Aogu Duo is making himself important, huh? He dares make me wait for him. Although the others didn't say anything, Leona started to cause trouble with a cold face. Vicious hatred filled her dark green eyes. Among this group, only she dared to scold Aogu Do. It was because she was much stronger, and her bloody force was the mightiest force in the dark firmament divine nation. Even though she wasn't patient, no one dared to comment. Madame Leona, please calm down. Sir Aoguduo has something that delays him. He said that when he comes here, he will make it up for you. The middle-aged man smiled dryly, continuing to explain. I want to see how Aogudo could make up for this. Leona swung her arm, and couldn't help but speak up. I'm going to rest. When Aoguduo comes here, tell him to come and talk to me face to face. Harumph. I have something to discuss with him anyway. Her eyes fell on Shi Yin, as if she had implied something. Shi Yin was astounded. He immediately got that she would trouble Aoguduo because of Aogera's dark trick, which destroyed one of her battleships. While frowning, Shi Yin suddenly realized that he would be a witness, and that he would have to stand up and criticize Aoguduo and Aogera. However, it was obvious that they didn't have enough pieces of evidence. They actually had nothing to prove that Aogera had done that. And they couldn't make it related to Aoguduo either. Would that woman prepare to scold and force the others to accept their crime? Leona excused that she was tired after a long trip, bringing the 3 young warriors under her command and leaving arrogantly. They stayed in a palace on this mountain. This palace had a dark sun symbol. It seemed like the palace belonged to her. She didn't pay attention to Shi Yin. After they got into the palace, she intended to keep a distance from him, saying nothing. Right after Leona had left, many warriors on the square started to scatter. Rochester, Carthew, and Delay brought their people and left to their own palaces. Each of them had a private place on the mountains of this mountain range. They had shown up here to show their respects to Leona. Not long after Carthew had left, on the way to his palace, he suddenly stopped, turning around and waving at Shi Yin. Buddy, if you don't mind, why don't you come and drink with me? On this spacious, grand mountain range, warriors had all scattered, and no one had thrown Shi Yin an eye. Even the middle-aged manager didn't have any intention to arrange a room for him. As Ziya wasn't here, Shi Yin had no one to ask for information. Leona seemed not wanting to talk to him much. For the time being, he became an outsider. While standing alone there with no clue about where to go, Shi Yin's eyes brightened up on seeing Carthew waving at him. Looking here and there, as Shi Yin found that no one noticed them, he frowned, then relaxed, beaming a smile. He didn't care how bad Carthew's reputation was, walking directly to him and clasping his fists from a far distance to greet the other. Then, I won't be too polite. It's okay, Carthew laughed. He asked his retinue to leave, then walked Shi Yin to his private palace. It was a beautiful blue crystal palace. As soon as the man appeared, his maids came to receive him. Each of them was around 20 years old. They all looked inviting, with exposing clothes. They had just a thin, silky fabric sheet on their bodies. People could see their private areas from time to time. The maids served them good wine and food. Inside the blue crystal palace, Carthew was sitting on his chairman's seat, smiling warmly while raising his glass. Come here, drink with me, buddy. Don't be too polite. Shi Yin was skeptical, as he didn't know why Carthew wanted to drink with him. He had never met this man before, so they didn't have any relationship. And he was just an unknown character in the dark firmament divine nation without any reputation. Most importantly, he was marked as a member of Ziyao's retinue. It was impossible that Carthew wanted to recruit him. Shi Yin frowned inwardly. Chapter 767. Kill a chicken with a butcher's knife. Chapter 767. Kill a chicken with a butcher's knife. Inside the blue crystal palace, beautiful maids moved around, serving them good food and wine. Carthew and Shi Yin were drinking unceasingly. Carthew was a man who loved wine as much as his own life. He knew so many good wines like the back of his hand, explaining them to Shi Yin non-stop. Which wine was purely good, which wine was burning like a passionate flame, etc. Different good wines needed to be stored in different containers and conditions. Also, he was telling how the method of drinking them was another interesting thing to learn. Shi Yin wasn't a sort of man who paid attention to details. He just nodded while putting up guard, as he didn't know what this man wanted to ask him. Carthew, and Shi Yin had never been close. Today was the first day they had met each other. Generally, the other shouldn't care about him that much. However, in the dark firmament divine nation, Shi Yin was just a stranger with no reputation. Although he was a famous character, compared to the members of the 5 great feudal vassals like Carthu, he was nothing, and he wasn't worth his special treatment. Serving the other without a reason, if he weren't deceitful, he would be surely a robber. In Shi Yin's thoughts, Carthu should have some other intentions. Indeed, when they were in the middle of their drinks, Carthu lowered his glass. His extraordinarily handsome face blushed like a beautiful woman. He laughed deliberately. I have 2 things I can't explain. I hope you can help me out. Shi Yin straightened his back, his face serious. If I can explain, of course, I won't conceal. For the good wine you've treated me, I will tell you everything I know. That's good. Carthu was happy. I heard that bloody slaughterer Ka-Tuwa had talked to you in person when you were in the solar star exploding fragment field. Then, he disappeared from there. He has given up chasing after you and Ziyao. I want to know what you and bloody slaughterer Ka-Tuwa had discussed back there. Shi Yin changed his visage while he shuddered inwardly. No need to be tense. I'm just curious. I don't want to arrest you or interrogate you. Carthu waved his hands, telling him not to be surprised. With my position in the divine nation today, I have many relationships with the outer space pirates. Perhaps you've heard about it. I've stepped on their corpses to reach this high position. That's why I always have a special concern about those space pirates. Of course, I have many insiders in their organizations. Also, many pirates will sell me intelligence. They want me to stay away from their business. It's normal that I know about you. Shi Yin could relax a little bit. He took a deep breath while frowning, his face severe. Sir, if you ask me something else, I will not conceal. However, I'm sorry that I can't tell you about this. Carthu slightly squinted, as a flash of electric current appeared in his eyes. All right, I won't chase you about this stuff anymore. We should talk about another thing. Please ask, sir. I understand Leona well. She isn't the sort of people who will poke her nose into the other's business. I don't know why she let you get on her battleship. Pausing for a while, Carthu's face darkened. As far I've known, before Leona got here, one of her battleships was destroyed, and several hundred warriors had died. Would you tell me what had happened? Is it related to you? Shi Yan's brows slammed together. Hesitating for a while, he said calmly, Madame Leona's wrecked ship does relate to me. Please elaborate. I departed from the glorious Amethyst star on an amethyst war chariot. When I passed by the moon star, an extreme explosion occurred. It seemed someone had installed a dark magnetic deadly explosion in my chariot. The energy explosion had smashed Leona's battleship. Dark magnetic deadly explosion? Carthu discolored in fright. He slightly trembled and then continued. Only the 9-star Chamber of Commerce can fabricate that toy. It's so incredible. Even a small life star couldn't withstand it. It would crush the life star to powder. If warriors under original god realm are dragged into the dark magnetic deadly explosion, both their god bodies and soul altars would be ripped apart. If I were in that situation, I would be hurt badly. How did your Amethyst war chariot have such a thing? I don't know. Shi Yin beamed a forced smile. Carthu suddenly quieted down, gazing at Shi Yin. He was bewildered for a while and then frowned. If that explosion was set for you, it's a miracle that you could survive. I'm not amazed at the explosion. What surprises me a lot is that how could you survive? Why do you say so? Leona isn't a merciful person, or else she couldn't have her current attainments. I feel weird that even if you aren't the main cause, her battleship exploded because of you. With her bad temper, she would skin you alive. How could you stay alive until now? I think you should ask Madame Leona. Even I don't know why. I'm curious too. Carthu sank in his thought for a while, and then smiled oddly. You haven't explained either of my 2 questions fully? Haha. Sir, do you think that you're wasting a good party on me? Shi Yin answered deliberately, his face calm and natural. He didn't reveal a beam of fear. Carthu shook his head. Drinking alone, even if you are drinking good wine, doesn't taste good. Sharing is a good drinking virtue, you know? Pausing for a while, he waved his hand, talking casually. You can stay in my place. When Aogu Duo arrives, the training of the extreme purgatory field will begin. You have to join it right away. Although you didn't help me out with my suspicions, I won't be so mean to you. You can use my good wines here at will. No need to be too polite. Thank you in advance, sir. Minor stuff. Shi Yin then stayed in Carthu's palace. This palace had some different training rooms, and it even had a 100 times heavier gravitational room. Shi Yin didn't care about the situation out there, as he entered the room and cultivated alone. At the third sky of True God realm, the effect of normal gravity on him was too little. However, this 100 times heavier gravitational room was quite useful for him, although walking in this room was extremely hard. His body had been trained to the acme, making it tougher than iron and heavier than rock at the same volume. In the gravitational room, the weight he had to bear would be increased accordingly. This gravitational room had many rocks of different shapes. Those rocks had some small holes and concave areas that warriors could use to lift them up. All of them were heavy. Some weren't big, but their mass was formidable like a mountain. Staying in the gravitational room, Shi Yin used those rocks to practice. Sitting neatly on the stone ground, Shi Yin squinted. His body was soaked in sweat. Not long after that, he stood up robustly, thrusting his hands deep into the concave spots on the rock. He didn't use the essence chi, just his physical strength to lift the rock and then dashing madly inside the gravitational room. Not long afterward, he was exhausted. His body looked like it was congested. Veins bulged under his skin like worms, giving him a savage look. Shi Yin wanted to check his limit. Those heavy rocks in the room were dozens of times heavier. Even though he had reached the third sky of True God realm, moving them was a little difficult. And that was how his potential power was stimulated. The energy hidden in his body would be pressed by the extreme gravity, making him shiver. It was another time of insane training. Shi Yin had no sliver of power in his body by now, lying like soft pulp on the ground. He closed his eyes to feel the robust vitality in his blood and muscles, while thoughts traveled fast in his head. He suddenly got an idea. He got up immediately, focusing and urging dozens of drops of immortal blood in his body towards the left arm. Crack, crack, crack. The bones on his left arm resounded with a cracking sound. His body enlarged fiercely. Just like a dormant beast, an intimidating flow of energy expanded from him. The immortal demon blood replaced his blood in his left arm. An extreme pain struck him from the veins. His arm turned into a red hue, such that it looked like his blood was seeping through his pores. His arm felt like it was boiled. That bloody hue seemed quite frightening. He dashed forward rumblingly. A flow of brutal energy expanded from his arm, just like a savage beast struggling to get out of an abyss. He lifted a dark golden rock on the ground using the fierce energy on his arm. A flow of scarlet light emitted from his body, generating a savage and furious power. Shi Yin was cheered up. Joy filled his heart as he laughed crazily. This dark gold rock was a relatively big one in this chamber. It was the extinct gold stone, a particular stone in the raging flame star area which was hundreds of times heavier than normal rock. The weight of the rock in his hand could be compared to a 1,000 meters tall mountain, and, inside this gravitational room, the weight of this big chunk was increased dozens of times. It was almost impossible for a King God Realm warrior to lift this rock. When one reached the third sky of King God Realm, perhaps they might be able to try. Shi Yin had tried to lift this rock using only his physical power. However, after several attempts, he couldn't move it even an inch. However, today, when he used the immortal demon blood to fill his left hand, the bursting energy of it had helped him lift up the hefty rock. Such exploding power had frightened him as well. After that moment, Shi Yin had a deeper understanding of the blood exchange Bao Ao and Jieji had mentioned. If he could replace blood in his body with the immortal demon blood, how tremendous could his body's bursting power be? Shi Yin didn't even dare to imagine that. Boom! The big rock fell on the extremely rigid ground. On the spot where the rock fell, the ground was suddenly cracked and shattered. cracks that naked eyes could see extended from under the rock. Those cracks extended continually. Explosion resounded from the big rock as chips shot out everywhere like the sharpest blades. OF*CK. A forthright voice came from the door of the gravitational room. A taut man who had the Purgatory token on his waist came in. Flows of light emitted from his hands, crushing those chips, his face strange. A delicate woman walked next to him. She coldly looked at Shi Yin, who was exhausted, sitting by the big rock. She also had a Purgatory token on her small waist. These two were Karthu subordinates, the famous warriors that would join the extreme Purgatory field. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Oh.